Chapter 13:10. The 8 energy columns were radiating light. Although there was no energy field, they were still working. Otherwise, they wouldn't have glowed. The reason was simple, because they were never lamps. The energy columns were working, but Kasha Ruiz was telling a story. Was this normal? Charlotte's heart was full of doubts, but there were no signs of abnormalities here, and Kasha Ruiz didn't show any signs of attacking him. But even if he suspected that Kasha Ruiz had a conspiracy, he had no other choice but to remain vigilant. This was his sorrow. He felt like a fish in a fisherman's net. Kasha Ruiz continued to tell his story. One day, the sky suddenly turned dark and nothing could be seen. The sea turned into monstrous waves, flash floods, and earthquakes. The scene was like the end of the world. The second day after the sky lost light, there was a violent explosion in the sky. You can't imagine the power of the explosion. Many forests were flattened by the shock wave of the explosion. After the explosion, a lot of fireballs fell from the sky. Some were metal fragments, and some were things that had never been seen before. I was very lucky. I picked up the compass. Hearing this, Charlotte couldn't help but interrupt Kasha Ruiz. What exploded? Kasha Ruiz shook his head. You may not believe it, but I really don't know. Then how did you know what to look for with the compass? Charlotte had to admit that he had been attracted by Kasha Ruiz's story. Kasha Ruiz said, "At first, of course I didn't know. I had never seen such a thing. The era I was born in was the era of cold weapons, similar to the ancient times here. You can't expect an ancient person like me to understand these things." Soon after I got the compass, its pointer moved, and I was curious about where it was going to take me. I followed the compass's directions, climbed mountains, crossed rivers. Finally, I found the box. Charlotte couldn't help but ask, "Is it complete?" Kasha Ruiz said, "No, it's missing a horn." Charlotte's heart was suddenly surprised. Even Kasha Ruiz didn't see the last fragment. Where's the last fragment? This was a mystery, Kasha Ruiz said. Initially, I suspected that the last fragment was on our planet. However, the needle of the compass was pointing towards the sky. I've tried everything, but I can't get into the sky. Charlotte thought to himself, both compasses are pointing to the sky. Could it be that the one in Isotab is just an imitation? Kasha Ruiz continued, I got the incomplete box, but I don't know what it's used for. I don't know who made it or where it came from, but I got something from the box, some sparkling mineral powder. Charlotte felt inexplicably nervous. Kasha Ruiz laughed. I think you already know what it is, right? AE capsule, Charlotte said. Kasha Ruiz said, it's not a capsule. It's really a mineral powder that contains magical energy. Mineral powder. Charlotte's gaze moved to the huge rock that looked like black jade under his feet. This rock also contained magical energy. Where did these rocks come from? His heart was filled with endless imagination. Kasha Ruiz said, you got something. You don't know what it is, but it looks so magical. Can you resist your curiosity? Can you resist the temptation? But in my time, I didn't have the research equipment you have. I could only use my tongue. In our tribe, if we want to get someone's power, we usually eat them. Charlotte, Kasha Ruiz said, I ate a little, just a little. I didn't feel anything. It didn't even have a taste. But I was still very careful. I didn't eat it all at once. I ate a little every few days. In total, I ate it for about 2 months. But I didn't become stronger because of it. Until one day, our tribe's enemies attacked, and I was stabbed. I was lucky to survive. After that injury, I found that my body began to change. Charlotte didn't need to imagine his situation because Kasha Ruiz's situation was almost the same as his. It was just that the way to stimulate the energy lurking in the body was different. Kasha Ruiz said, I gained great power. My life changed from then on. I killed our chief and ate his heart in front of our people. I became the new chief of our tribe. Those who looked down on me and bullied me in the past, I didn't let any of them go. I killed them all. After I integrated the power of the army, I began to conquer other tribes. In every battle, I rushed to the front, and I was invincible. My body evolved every day, and I became stronger and stronger. My desire to conquer the world also became stronger. I couldn't stop my footsteps, and the territory of my empire continued to expand. At my peak, I had millions of troops. Everywhere I went, blood flowed like a river. The woman I liked, whether she had a man or not, had to sleep with me. The thing I liked, no matter who its owner was, had to give it to me. Were you happy? Kasia Ruiz said, I wasn't happy at all. In the beginning, I just became stronger and stronger. My fists are like the bombs in your world, and I can blow up a cow with just one punch. In the end, I could even blow up the city gates. Charlotte's mind suddenly flashed with a question that he had thought about before. Could it be that different races ate that mineral powder and got different abilities? Kasia Ruiz said, but as my body evolved, my body became more and more transparent, and I became cold and ruthless. Even if it was my wife or my child, if they angered me, I would blow them up with a punch. Also, I lost interest in food. Whatever I ate had no taste. At first, I just hated the food. Later, I would vomit a little bit of food, and it was uncomfortable for a few days. I thought I was going to die. I wanted to unlock the secret of the box and find the answer before I died. Charlotte sneered. You actually wanted to find a reason, solve the problem, and then continue being a tyrant, right? Kasia Ruiz did not care about Charlotte's ridicule. He continued. What happened next was mentioned in the Bronze Grimoire. I brought that compass and traveled thousands of miles, searching for the things that fell to the ground after the explosion. When I was conquering the world, I didn't touch that compass at all. I started my journey with it, and during the journey, I received its instructions. Sometimes it was a voice that I couldn't understand, and sometimes it was a dream. But no matter what it was, I was sure that it was giving me instructions. What did you find? Didn't you see everything? Kasia Ruiz's voice had a hint of pride. Stones, one stone after another. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. You mean the city? Yes and no. What do you mean? What you saw was a city, but what I found at first was just one stone after another. Kasia Ruiz seemed to be recalling something. According to the compass's instructions, I piled up the stones I found one by one and slowly built this city. Did you want to build it like this? Or did the box make you build it like this? Of course it was the box. Kasia Ruiz said. Everything here was built according to its instructions. The placement of each stone, the position of each stone, was completely handled according to its instructions. Do you know? In order to complete its instructions, I spent more than 10,000 years just to collect these stones. A person spent more than 10,000 years to collect stones. What kind of persistence was that? In the process of collecting stones, my body completely disappeared, and I became like this. Kasia Ruiz said, to build this stone city, I spent more than 10,000 years. You may think that I'm crazy and very boring, but I want to tell you that that period of time was the most fulfilling and interesting time that I've ever spent. Kasia Ruiz said, after the city was built, I gave it a name. It's called Sky City. Rang Hisaishi had a famous light music with this name, but now it seemed that Kasia Ruiz owned the copyright of this name. After this city was built, I received new instructions. Kasia Ruiz pointed to an energy bar on his side. I found them again. When I found them, they had lost most of their energy and were dim. I brought them one by one into this city. After entering this city, they began to replenish their energy, but the process was very slow. Charlotte's gaze moved to an energy column. Suddenly, he seemed to understand something, and the uneasy feeling from before emerged again. These energy columns had actually been replenishing energy. It was a very long wait. Kasia Ruiz said, 10,000 years after 10,000 years. I don't know how many tens of thousands of years I waited. My world was destroyed, but I'm still alive. My world gave birth to new life and began a new journey of evolution. A new civilization was also being built bit by bit. Charlotte thought of Isotab. She was Kasia Ruiz's later generation. The new life that Kasia Ruiz was talking about was obviously Isotab. The new civilization was also the civilization that was later established in that world. I have no interest in those people and their civilization at all. I've seen the destruction of too many races, and I've seen the destruction of too many civilizations. I've become numb to those things. However, while waiting for the energy to be refined and charged, The compass gave me a lot of instructions. It allowed me to intervene in the evolution of the later generations. Some technology was transmitted to my head through the compass, and then I injected it into the civilization of the later generations. The civilization of the later generations became stronger and stronger. The dead could be cloned, and the human body could enter advanced evolution through drugs. In the end, everything went out of control. Charlotte's heart was shocked. He did not know why, but he believed the story that Queijo Ruiz told him. Previously, he thought that Queijo Ruiz had learned the technology to create human clones through isotab. Now, it seemed that the headquarters was not like that. Instead, the compass had used Queijo Ruiz's method of preserving seedlings to create the civilization of the later generations of the world. Standing in the CPU of this mysterious sky city, it was as if the story that happened in the distant extraterrestrial, in the distant era, was happening right before his eyes. For this sky city, tens of thousands of years, or even millions of years, was just a snap of the fingers. Chapter 13:11. Queijo Ruiz sighed. That world became crazier and crazier, and it finally went out of control. The war that destroyed the world broke out, and the people killed each other, one city after another. During that time, I found that the time it took for the energy column to recharge was getting faster and faster. The war broke out, and the time it took for the energy column to recharge was getting faster and faster. Charlotte couldn't help but think in his heart. Is the war related to the time it takes for the energy column to recharge? He couldn't imagine it. The war that happened in the distant world was strange and distant to him. One day, I received a new hint, and that was to find the chosen person. After that, the energy column finished recharging. I also saw the greatness of the sky city with my own eyes. It rose from the ground and flew into the sky. Queijo Ruiz raised his arms. And I am the master of this city. I am in it. So, it brought you to this world? Charlotte's brain couldn't help but imagine the scene of the city flying under his feet. But no matter how he imagined it, the scene he imagined was very strange. Yes, it brought me to this world, and then found you. What about Isotab? Charlotte asked. How did she come to this world? You have to ask her about her, Queijo Ruiz said. Charlotte didn't ask again. The scene of the flying sky city in his mind disappeared, and it was replaced by a disc-shaped black spaceship. In that spaceship, the sudden appearance of light and the arm that reached out from behind the light screen changed the life of that girl. That girl was Isotab. He had stolen this memory from Isotab's brain when he invaded her body. Although this wasn't a complete answer, at least it could be said that Isotab didn't come to this world with the prehistoric one. She took the same mineral powder that Queijo Ruiz took, so she evolved to the same height as Queijo Ruiz. Isotab's story was another story. Charlotte's heart was filled with bitterness. He knew very well that he no longer had the chance to explore the story of Isotabu. I already know your story, but you still haven't told me my original question, Charlotte said. That is, why me? Why am I the chosen one? Queijo Ruiz said. It was that compass that found you. It gave me a hint. What hint? Charlotte was eager to know the answer. Queijo Ruiz said, You are the chosen one, the only one who can enter the box world. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Why did you enter the box world? Queijo Ruiz said, It didn't give me any instructions, but I guess the last piece of the box isn't somewhere in the starry sky, but in the world of the box. It's looking for someone who can bring it out. Is it your guess? Yes, that's my guess. In my long life, this is the question I have thought about the most. Queijo Ruiz said, It found you, and you are indeed different. When I evolved to your level, my body was almost invisible, but you still have such a perfect body. Charlotte said, Since you guessed it, why didn't you go in? Queijo Ruiz laughed. Are you kidding? Anyone who came into contact with that box would eventually die. I once did an experiment. I threw a lot of people in, but no one came out alive. Only ashes came out. I also threw some energy substances in, but the energy substances completely disappeared. You said that anyone who touches that box will eventually die, but why are you fine? Charlotte was just thinking about this question. Keisha Ruiz laughed. It has to leave someone to do something, right? You're not afraid of the box world at all. So why are you pretending to be afraid of it? Keisha Ruiz said, I'm waiting for time. It's about time. The sense of crisis in Charlotte's heart became stronger. Keisha Ruiz sneered. You've asked me more than once what I want from you. Now I can tell you, what I want is you. What do you mean? Keisha Ruiz said, in my thinking, everything that happened was because of that big explosion. If it wasn't for that big explosion, I wouldn't be who I am today. I want to unlock the secret of the box. It must hide the most important secret of this universe. If I do it, I will live with greater power. Maybe I can travel freely in this universe and conquer higher civilizations. I can even dominate everything. And I mean everything. Human desires were like this. Sometimes they could be so big that even the universe couldn't contain them. Charlotte said, You're just dreaming. You said you want me. Do you think I will help you satisfy your perverted ambition and desire? Ha ha! Keisha Ruiz laughed. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at your naivety. Keisha Ruiz's voice suddenly turned cold. I want you, but I don't mean that I want you to do things for me. I want your body. I want your energy. I want everything of you. I want to become you. Enter the box world, get the last fragment, complete the box, and then start a new life. This was Keisha Ruiz's purpose. Charlotte had been looking for this answer. Now that he got it, his heart didn't feel relaxed after the knot his heart was unraveled. Keisha Ruiz wanted to occupy his body, wanted to become him, and then enter the world in the box to complete the mission that should have been completed by him. He wanted to obtain greater power through the box to realize his almost sick dream. Now, Keisha Ruiz was only one step away from the final step. Would it be success after one step? Perhaps even Keisha Ruiz didn't know this, but still couldn't stop his ambition and desire. No one could resist the mysterious world in the box, and no one could resist the gifts that it brought to people, such as a long life, great power, incredible special abilities, and so on. Keisha Ruiz was obviously deep in it, and he couldn't get out. It was said that power was a kind of poison. Once he got addicted, you couldn't get out. However, power was also a kind of poison, and it was a more ferocious poison than power. Once he got addicted, it would be difficult to get out of it. In fact, it wasn't just Keisha Ruiz. Charlotte himself had a deep understanding of this. Along the way, how could he not be obsessed with its power and ability? If he didn't have great power and ability, how could he create Rema Group? And how could he win the hearts of so many women? If he didn't have great power and ability, he was afraid that he would still be moving bricks on the construction site, living a hard life. It was the same for Isatab. Although he didn't know her story, her pursuit of power was almost perverted. She didn't even hesitate to destroy the world to achieve her goal. After knowing the truth from Keisha Ruiz's mouth, and recalling the battle that happened in Incheon, Korea, and Shangri-La, how could she not want to replace him and do what Keisha Ruiz wanted to do? The truth was right in front of him. Charlotte's heart also had a ridiculous feeling. He was Tang Sung, and all the demons and ghosts wanted to eat him. After a short silence, Charlotte said aloud, Keisha Ruiz, don't you know that even if you eat me, you can't become the real me? You can at most turn me into your clothes, just like what Isatab made for my two friends. But for him, he can't become the person he wants to be. Clothes are clothes. No matter how well-fitting clothes are, they are still clothes. Have you forgotten? Keisha Ruiz said, the technology of that world was imported by me. What Isatab knows, I know. What I know, Isatab doesn't know. For the arrival of this day, I have planned for so long. Every detail, every step, I have calculated countless times. I have waited for this day to come for too long. Now that all the conditions are ripe, I'm going to realize my dream. If you want to eat me and occupy my body, you can eat me when I am weak and then occupy my body. But why did you wait until today? You even gave me a time limit of 3 years. Why? Keisha Ruiz said, the first reason is that if your body hasn't started to fully evolve, it would be useless for me to come. The second reason is right in front of you, in the center of this city. What does this have to do with it? Keisha Ruiz said, the Sky City flew to this world and exhausted all its energy. These 8 energy pillars need to be replenished. This is a very long time. I can't remember how many tens of thousands of years it took for them to replenish their energy today. This is also the reason why I gave you a 3-year deadline. The deadline I set for you is calculated by me repeatedly. The time for these 8 energy pillars to be fully charged is today. I estimated that it would take 2 more days. Those 2 days were the time I used to catch you. Since you came to me today, I have saved 2 days of time to catch you. We can start soon. The stone under your feet contains a very magical energy. It will only be released after the 8 energy pillars are fully charged. At that time, you will witness a miracle. What miracle? Charlotte's heart was already nervous to the extreme. I can't describe its existence to you in words, but you will see it with your own eyes soon, so there's no need to ask me at all, Keisha Ruiz said. A decisive sneer appeared at the corner of Charlotte's mouth. He took out the box of the world. You are a very smart and cunning person. I admit that you have calculated everything, but we have a very good saying. That is, there's always a loophole in every plan. No one can make any plan perfect. I love that you have missed a very important place. What did I miss? I can enter the world of the box now, and you will get nothing. If you find the last fragment of the box, you can get some powerful power, or even unlock the most important secret of the universe. That can only be me. Charlotte shouted at Keisha Ruiz. Not a dirty mouse like you. Ha! Keisha Ruiz laughed. Sometimes you're really funny. I thought you would say something that would surprise me. I didn't expect you to say this. Let me tell you, once these 8 energy pillars are fully charged, you can't go anywhere. Charlotte suddenly inserted the middle finger of his left hand into the gap of the box of the world. From the world that he was born into another world, it was like his women and children, his family, and his career, everything. This was not a decision that could be made in an instant. No matter how well prepared Charlotte was mentally, when he inserted his finger into the gap of the box of the world, he inevitably hesitated for a moment. It was during this moment of hesitation that an energy field with explosive properties came crashing over. It was Keisha Ruiz's fist. Only one fist. Isotab had the habit of condensing her own energy into a sharp spear, but Keisha Ruiz's habit was obviously different. A fist, an incomparably huge fist. By the time Xia Lei saw it, the fist had already arrived in front of him. Its volume was almost as big as his body. Chapter 13:12. Boom! Charlotte's body was sent flying by the huge energy fist. The moment the fist hit his body, Charlotte felt as if his internal organs were about to shatter, and the pain almost suffocated him. However, this was just a prelude. Rumble. A violent explosion sounded, and it felt like a cannon shell had exploded. There was no smoke, but Charlotte saw a burst of fire and energy that could only be produced by an explosion. Before he had time to recover from the first physical attack, the energy attack had already affected his body. Kaboom! The silver armor made an ear-piercing sound, and the huge impact also swept Charlotte, pushing him into a stone wall like a cannonball. There was another violent impact and shock, and Charlotte opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, then fell to the ground. However, there was not even a scratch on the stone wall behind him. The moment his back hit the stone wall glowed with a cold blue light, like a protective film, protecting the stone wall that was hit. This stone city could fly from outer space to Earth and even drill into the ground. If such a place could have a scratch from a collision, then it would really be an incredible thing. However, no matter how strong the attack was, Charlotte's right hand tightly held onto the box, and his left hand also tightly held onto the crystal skull, not letting them fall. The moment he fell to the ground, what he did was not to attack Keisha Ruiz, but to stretch his fingers towards the box of the world. Although it was very difficult to make that decision, he still had to make it. Just from this exchange, he found that he was not Keisha Ruiz's opponent at all. The comparison of his strength with Keisha Ruiz could be completely compared using age. His opponent was an existence that had lived for millions of years, and how old was he? His age was not even enough for Keisha Ruiz to take a nap. If he could not win, then he would run. This was already Charlotte's only choice. He could not hesitate any longer. If he hesitated for even a second, he might fall into an irrecoverable situation. However, just as he was about to insert his right thumb into the gap of the box of the world, a buzzing sound was heard in the space. The black, jade-like ground trembled. Darkness returned. A boundless gravitational force appeared, sweeping over like a tsunami. The world box in Charlotte's right hand flew towards the center of the black jade ground. The crystal skull reacted almost at the same instant the gravity was generated. A pure white light burst out and enveloped Charlotte. Everything happened in the span of a second. It was so fast that no one could react. However, Charlotte still survived. But at this time, worrying about being killed was actually unnecessary. Because Cassia Ruiz had planned all of this, he would never kill him before his plot succeeded. Sure enough, the gravitational force disappeared before it reached Charlotte's body. It came like a landslide and a tsunami, but when it left, it was like a receding tide. It gave people the feeling that it had never appeared, that the moment of darkness was just an illusion. Cassia Ruiz appeared again, but he did not attack Charlotte again. He stood on the huge black, jade-like rock and looked at Charlotte. The corner of his mouth had a hint of a sneer. I said, I plan everything. Did you think I didn't think about this? I thought about it long ago. Your plan was childish and ridiculous. Do you still have any ideas now? Charlotte struggled to get up from the ground. He did not speak. He reached out his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Just the movement of getting up made his bones feel like they were about to crack. The power of the brand was healing his injuries, but nothing could heal the pain in his heart. Facing an enemy more terrifying than Sitab, he could not defeat him. Other than accepting his fate, what choice did he have? This was the source of his sorrow. At this moment, the black, jade-like rock under his feet trembled slightly. The blue energy contained in the rock was clearly agitated. It swam quickly inside the rock, darting left and right, as if trying to find an opening to escape. The box of the world attached to the center of the black, jade-like rock also trembled slightly. In this space, there was a constant buzzing sound, but it was impossible to see what was making the sound. Ha! Cassia Ruiz laughed out loud. His posture seemed to be releasing the desire that had been suppressed for millions of years through laughter. His voice also echoed in this space. The great moment is finally coming. It's coming. Wah! The black, jade-like rock made a sound like flowing mercury. At that moment, blue energy emerged from the surroundings of the box of the world. At first it was a little bit, then more and more. At the beginning, it was like a seed that was buried in the ground germinated, emerged from the soil, and began to grow. As the blue energy grew higher and higher, it gradually surrounded the box of the world. However, the blue energy did not stop. It continued to grow upwards like a tree. Moreover, after completely surrounding the box of the world, the speed at which the black, jade-like rock released the blue energy became faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, the column formed by the blue energy reached the top of the CPU building. But just when Charlotte thought it was going to rush out and soar into the sky, it actually stopped growing upwards and began to sprout branches. It was actually a tree, the blue energy tree. It took root in the CPU of this city and surrounded the box of the world. This was what Charlotte saw, but he could not believe his eyes. Cassia Ruiz finally stopped laughing like a lunatic. He looked at Xiaolei. This is a miracle, isn't it? Charlotte did not seem to hear his voice. He was completely shocked by the blue energy tree in front of him. The spectacle in front of him even made him forget the pain in his body and made him forget to think. The miracle continued. Roots grew out of the branches of the blue energy tree. The roots hung down from the branches and extended in all directions along the black, jade-like rock ground. Those roots penetrated the rock wall of the CPU and continued to spread throughout the city. The whole city seemed to have come alive. Every piece of rock was alive, and every piece of rock had a very mysterious story. Then the whole city trembled slightly, giving people the feeling that it was the vibration caused by the engine before a spaceship took off. A blue energy root suddenly pierced over. Charlotte did not notice its arrival at all. By the time he realized it, the blue root had already penetrated his body. He did not feel anything, as if the blue energy root that penetrated his body did not exist. Boom! Countless blue energy tendrils suddenly pierced towards Xia Lei from all directions. Charlotte could not dodge at all, because even if he turned into a bird, he could not fly out of the encirclement formed by thousands of energy roots. Countless blue energy roots penetrated Charlotte's body in an instant. One after another, they could not be counted. From his head to his feet, almost every pore had one. Charlotte's body could not move, and then it was his thinking. His thinking was slowed down to a very slow level, and this slowness was still continuing, which made his brain more and more dizzy. Ha ha ha! Kasia Ruiz laughed again. He was very happy today. I have a secret that I did not tell you. Only the existence of a free energy body can move when the Sky City is awakened. Non-energy bodies will be imprisoned. The Sky City will regard you as a virus. In a human body, the virus will first be wrapped and then killed. Charlotte wanted to speak, but he could not open his mouth. Those blue energy roots completely imprisoned his body. In the past, at this time, his branding power would have been activated to help him solve the problem. But this time, his branding power was also imprisoned, and he could not move. Comparing the branding power in his body with the energy of the Sky City, it was undoubtedly a firefly competing with a bright moon. I am about to be eaten by him. At this time, the faces of his women and children appeared in Charlotte's mind. His heart was filled with sadness and pain. He wanted to cry, but even his tear ducts were imprisoned. Kasia Ruiz walked towards Charlotte, and his voice was very cold. It took me countless moments to master the characteristics of this energy. Let me tell you another secret. I can enter your body through them, and then destroy your soul from the inside bit by bit. Then, I will enter the original universe imprint. You said that I can't completely become you. Let me tell you, I don't want to become you, but I want you to become me. Your body, your universe imprint are all mine. I will have everything except your soul. The universe imprint he mentioned, Charlotte originally understood it to be a universe imprint. Although the name was different, it could refer to the same thing. Charlotte, this is how I will eat you. This should be the most advanced way of eating. You should feel honored. Your soul will be destroyed, but your body will still exist. Your body will accompany me to conquer one civilization after another. You should be even more happy. Ha ha! Kasia Ruiz laughed again. The corner of Charlotte's eyes shifted to the crystal skull in his left hand. His only hope was the crystal skull. However, until now, there was no reaction from the crystal skull. After all, it was not a conscious thing. The blue energy was almost non-aggressive, and the blue energy roots were as natural and pure as sunlight and moonlight. This kind of imprisonment was effective on him, who had a body, but it had no effect on the energy, so it would not respond at all. Kasia Ruiz's plan really had no loopholes. The so-called 1 out of 100 secrets would not appear on him. Chapter 13:13. The black robe on Kasia Ruiz's body fell to the ground. His energy body continued to compress until it was almost invisible to the naked eye. I'm coming to eat you. Do you have any last words? Kasia Ruiz's voice was heard. Charlotte couldn't speak, but even if he could speak, he didn't want to speak. At this moment, he was completely disheartened, and the fear in his heart overwhelmed everything. I actually forgot that you can't speak. Then I'll take silence as your last words. Don't worry, you've contributed such a perfect body to me. I won't kill your women and children. If this can make you feel better, then you can take this as my promise to you. Kasia Ruiz entered a blue energy beam. Charlotte couldn't see Kasia Ruiz at all, but he could feel a cold energy body entering his body. As for the power of the brand in his body, because it was imprisoned, there was no reaction at all. This was Kasia Ruiz's most advanced eating method. If Isotab's eating method was compared to eating garlic, then Kasia Ruiz's eating method was obviously at the level of drinking coffee. Kasia Ruiz used this method to enter his body, only destroying his soul, then occupying his universe imprint, and then his body. Under this eating method, his body wouldn't die, but his soul would be destroyed, and he would become another person. Would Kasha Rui succeed? It was impossible to judge. But what Charlotte knew was that this time, he had no other way. He was dead. This was his fate. There was a sudden sharp pain in his brain, and fear occupied every nerve. At the moment when he was about to die, faces appeared in Charlotte's mind. Childhood sweetheart Jiang Rui, his first girlfriend Liang Xiao, his first wife Shinatianin, Long Bing who went through life and death with him, Tang Yuyin who loved him without hesitation, Fan Fan, and his children. I am dying. Farewell, my love, and my children. I promised you that I would come back, but I can't do it. I can't do it. Forgive me. Charlotte's consciousness became more and more hazy. His vision became more and more blurry until he could no longer see anything. But just as he was about to fall unconscious, there was a sudden vibration in front of him. Voila! The strange sound appeared again. It was the sound of the black, jade-like rock releasing blue energy. It had appeared once before. The moment the voice appeared, Charlotte's body suddenly regained its freedom and fell to the ground. His vision also returned to normal, and then he saw an incredible scene. The blue energy tree disappeared. In the place where the tree should have been, there was a woman, Izatab. Boom! The void trembled, and Kasia Ruiz fell from the void. The state of his energy body didn't seem good, and his color was a lot lighter. He entered the blue energy, which consumed a lot of energy. If he wanted to destroy Charlotte's soul, he would also need to expend a lot of energy. He invaded Charlotte's universe imprint, which consumed a lot of energy. The advanced eating methods that he had researched were all based on the consumption of his own energy. If Kasia Ruiz had destroyed Charlotte's soul, invaded Charlotte's universe imprint, and completely became the owner of Charlotte's body, then he would definitely be fine. But because of Izatab's sudden invasion, he turned off the blue energy tree, which was equivalent to being kicked out of Charlotte's body. Ha ha! Izatab laughed. His voice was sharp, like a knife scraping one's eardrums. You dirty rat, you must have calculated for this day at least 1,000,000 times, right? You planned everything, but why didn't you include me in your plan? In Kasia Ruiz's plan, Izatab definitely existed, but in his plan, Izatab definitely wouldn't appear here. This was his feast. How could he allow Izatab to have a share of it? But some women were just so annoying, you didn't want them to appear, but they would still appear in front of you. She did something to hurt you, but she still smiled so happily, and her smile was so beautiful. Why don't you eat? Get up and eat again, Izatab said mockingly. Kasia Ruiz didn't say anything. What he wanted to do the most now was to kill, not to talk. He looked at Izatab, his eyes cold and scary. You used a long time to plan all of this. I have also waited a long time for this day, Izatab said. You don't deserve to be the owner of this city. I should be its owner. Are you even worthy? Kasia Ruiz crawled up from the ground. His energy body was trembling a little, giving off an unstable feeling. Izatab pointed at Charlotte, laughing coldly. He is the chosen one. You want to replace him, but you definitely don't know. I have also planned for a long time. My plan is to replace you. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. From Charlotte's point of view, be it Kasia Ruiz or Izatab, both of them were extremely cunning people, and he was the prey of these two ultimate evolutions. You want to replace me? Kasia Ruiz snorted coldly. I'm the owner of this sky city. I am also the chosen one. You can't replace me. Izatab laughed coldly. Don't think too highly of yourself. You are the only chosen one? Then how can I stop its operation? Kasia Ruiz was stunned for a moment. Charlotte finally caught his breath. He struggled to climb up from the ground. He didn't miss a word of the conversation between Izatab and Kasia Ruiz. Although he was still in a state of shock, his brain couldn't help but think. Kasia Ruiz said he is the chosen one of this city. He is the owner of this city, so he can control this city. But Izatab just stopped the operation of this city. How did she do it? Could it be that this city doesn't have a chosen one? This city is like a spaceship that can travel between the stars. and anyone who meets certain requirements can operate it. Thinking of this, his thoughts suddenly took a turn. Then, can I control it? If I can operate it, I can take these two guys and leave this world. This world will be safe. This was a crazy idea, and it was almost a suicidal idea. He didn't understand the city at all, and he didn't know if this city would have air after entering space, and he didn't know if he could withstand flying faster than the speed of light. After all, according to his knowledge, the human body couldn't withstand flying at the speed of light, and this city seemed to have no protection. Without air, food, and water, how could he survive? Do you really think you are the only one? And you still call yourself the only one in prehistory? Izatab continued to mock him. That magical mineral is the real reason. Me, you, and Charlotte, all three of us can become the owners of the city. We can all operate it. Impossible. Kasha Ruiz roared angrily. Charlotte, on the other hand, was shocked. The almost suicidal idea, just now, popped up again. For his women and children, for the world, for China and the Chinese, if his death could solve the problem, why not make a sacrifice? Even if he didn't do this, once Izatab and Kasha Ruiz solved the problem between them, no matter who was left, they wouldn't let him go. Since he was going to die anyway, why not make his death more valuable? Kasha Ruiz, after I kill you, smelly rat, I will be the owner of this city. As soon as he finished speaking, Izatab's energy body suddenly condensed into a spear, and without any hesitation, it pierced towards Kasha Ruiz. Under normal circumstances, Kasha Ruiz wouldn't be afraid of Izatab's attack at all. All these years, he had been chasing after Izatab, but now the situation was reversed, all because he had failed to devour Charlotte and was seriously injured. While you're down, I'll kill you. Izatab's energy spear instantly pierced into Kasha Ruiz's body. The body in energy form didn't have any vital points, so attacking any part of the body would have the same effect. Kasha Ruiz was in an extremely weak state and couldn't dodge at all. By the time he wanted to dodge, Izatab's energy spear had already pierced his lower abdomen. Boom! The collision of energy produced a sound similar to a grenade explosion. The spear that Izatab had condensed left a big hole in Kasha Ruiz's body. At that moment, it was like a rocket had pierced through Kasha Ruiz's lower abdomen and exploded. Kasha Ruiz's energy body shook twice, and the wound on his lower abdomen quickly healed. Whoosh! Another hole appeared in Kasha Ruiz's chest. The spear that Izatab had condensed actually pierced through his lower abdomen and pierced through his back again, emerging from his chest. This was the battle style of two ultimate evolvers, and it was difficult for them to kill each other. Even though Kasha Ruiz was seriously injured, it was still not an easy task for Izatab to kill Kasha Ruiz. She needed to attack again and again, until Kasha Ruiz's energy was completely depleted, and finally, she could destroy Kasha Ruiz's soul. When life evolved to the energy state, death would sometimes become a luxury. After suffering 2 consecutive heavy injuries, Kasha Ruiz was still able to resist. Just as Izatab attacked him for the 3rd time, his energy body condensed into a huge fist and punched out. Boom! Under the intense explosion, both energy bodies were sent flying. Izatab quickly stabilized herself, while Kasha Ruiz fell to the ground. Go to hell! Izatab suddenly turned into 4 spears, and with a whoosh, 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 all of them flew toward Kasha Ruiz. This time, Kasha Ruiz didn't dare to face it head-on, and he quickly dodged to the side. The chase had begun. Just as the 2 energy bodies were fighting, Charlotte's gaze shifted to the ground. He found that the blue energy was still gathered in the center of the black, jade-like rock, and it looked restless. And the world box was about a step away from it. With this glance, Charlotte suddenly found that there was a square mark where the blue energy was gathered. The size of that mark was exactly the same as the world box. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? He kicked his feet, and with a whoosh, he flew toward the world box. Chapter 13-14. Both Kasha Ruiz and Isatab, the two ultimate evolvers, were more than enough to deal with Charlotte. Even if Kasha Ruiz, who was seriously injured, wanted to stop Xiaolei at this time, it would be easy. However, the two ultimate evolvers were fighting each other for the ownership of the Sky Castle. Who would care about Xiaolei? Charlotte's body smashed onto the black, jade-like rock. Without any hesitation, he grabbed the box of the world with his right hand, then turned around and placed the box of the world on the square mark in the center of the black, jade-like rock. Whoosh! A strange sound came out, and the black, jade-like rock vibrated. Blue energy soared into the sky, and in an instant, the blue light was boundless. The release this time was different from the previous one, because the previous one had a process of accumulation, but this time, all the blue energy was gathered under the square mark. It was like a rocket. All the fuel had been filled, and as long as there was a little fire, it would soar into the sky. Charlotte had no time to dodge, and his body was instantly surrounded by the blue energy. At this moment, his body could no longer move. However, he could still see the box of the world in the center of the blue energy. On the bronze surface, blue symbols kept appearing, ancient and mysterious. Some symbols flashed and disappeared. New symbols appeared and then disappeared. On its surface, symbols kept appearing, like commands being input into a computer. The ground trembled, and the blue energy connected the whole city, like fuel flowing in an engine. The whole city also trembled, giving people a feeling that it was about to fly. The sudden change made Kasha Ruiz and Isatab stop fighting at the same time. The two ultimate evolvers also shifted their gaze to the center of the black, jade-like rock. Through the blue energy, Charlotte also saw Isatab and Kasha Ruiz. However, he could not move and he could not speak. Bastard, Kasha Ruiz suddenly roared at Charlotte. Make it stop. For some reason, seeing Kasha Ruiz's exasperated look, Charlotte felt a sense of pleasure in his heart. The tremors in Sky City were getting more and more intense. The stone mountain beneath, it seemed to be suffering from a magnitude 10 earthquake. It shook violently. First, the structure loosened, and then it began to collapse. Huge rocks fell down one after another. Kasha Ruiz suddenly lunged at the world box. Charlotte wanted to stop Kasha Ruiz, but he couldn't move at all. Since he had a real body, he was subjected to many restrictions in this place. However, Kasha Ruiz and Isatab did not have such restrictions. They could come and go as they pleased because they themselves were a type of energy. But just as Kasha Ruiz was about to grab the world box, the hesitant Isitabu suddenly turned into a spear and pierced Kasha Ruiz's back, nailing him to the ground. Different shapes had different flying speeds. The spear was obviously faster than the human-shaped Kasha Ruiz, not to mention that Kasha Ruiz was in a seriously injured state. Rumble. Kasha Ruiz's energy attribute had explosive characteristics. Attacking him was equivalent to attacking a bomb. However, the violent explosion did not hinder the operation of Sky City. The energy of the explosion was instantly absorbed by the black, jade-like rocks and disappeared. Do you know what he wants to do? Kasha Ruiz roared. He wants to take us away from this world. Isatab did not let go of him. The next time Sky City can fly will be millions of years later. Stop him. Kasha Ruiz seemed to be panicking. Isatab was still indifferent. She seemed to be a little hesitant just now, but now she seemed to have made up her mind. Don't you want her plan? Don't you want to turn this place into a hunting ground and revive your race and civilization? Kasha Ruiz shouted at Isatab. Isatab's voice said, I've changed my plan. Kasha Ruiz suddenly swapped the two sides of his body. Originally, he was nailed to the ground on his stomach, but with this change, his back was against the ground. The moment the change was completed, he threw a punch at Isatab. The spear that nailed Kasha Ruiz to the ground suddenly split into four and instantly pierced Kasha Ruiz's shoulders and legs, nailing him to the ground even more firmly. You bitch! Kasha Ruiz roared. Are you in love with him? Isatab did not respond. Charlotte looked at Isatab, who was nailing Kasha Ruiz to the ground and buying time for him. His heart was filled with complicated feelings. He had saved her, and she had hurt him in a way that women could not accept. She had also saved him, and she had hurt him, and they were enemies. The story between him and her could be written into a book with all kinds of grievances intertwined. But what about it? When he needed help the most, she had turned from a mortal enemy to an ally. At the most critical moment, she had given up her most important plan for him. He had never seen through her, including now. Rumble, the sky city left the ground, and the stone mountain collapsed. The energy roots of the blue energy tree ran through the entire city. Every stone, every slate had its existence. It was really like a tree, rooted in the ground, absorbing nutrients, and then transporting the nutrients to the city's CPU. The entire ground trembled. An endless black curtain appeared in front of the sky city. Charlotte saw the endless black curtain. He did not know what it was, but he knew that the sky city would certainly not crash thousands of meters into the ground and fly into the blue sky. It had a specific way of flying and landing. Perhaps it was the black curtain. It created the black curtain, tore it open, and then reached another place, just like the wormhole that scientists hypothesized. Although this was a hypothesis, it was a hypothesis that was very close to the truth. Otherwise, how could such a huge stone city come to the underground world that was thousands of meters deep? Bitch, I swear I will kill you. Kasha Ruiz's voice was filled with anger and despair. Isatab sneered. Its program is to find the chosen person and return to our world. I believe there will be a new beginning. I am very happy to see some changes, but you have lost control of the Sky City. You are just a pitiful loser, a dirty rat. You have to return to that crazy world too. Kasha Ruiz had lost control of his emotions. This was a very bad thing for an energy body like him, but he could not control his emotions. The conversation between the two raised a question in Charlotte's heart. Isatab and Kasha Ruiz are both from that world. Why does Kasha Ruiz hate that world so much? What kind of world is that? The Sky City suddenly trembled violently, and then slowly moved toward the black curtain. There was no engine, and it purely relied on the energy contained in the stone to drive this stone city of unknown weight. This was a miracle that could not be explained by human science. And even if all the scientists from all over the world gathered here to visit this stone city, they would not be able to learn any technology from this place. Humans were but a very small existence in a vast universe, just like a bug in the eyes of humans. Charlotte, welcome the new world. I will wait for you there. Isatab's voice was very excited. Charlotte's feelings were extremely complicated. From a world that gave birth to him and raised him to another world, all his achievements in this world, all his glory, all his wealth would be wiped out. Everything would start from zero. He actually did not care about these things, but he could not give up his women and children. He had promised them that he would go back, but he could not go back. This Sky City needed a few million years to recharge. Even if he evolved into a pure energy body like Isatab and Kasha Ruiz, and could live until that time, when he returned to Earth, would his women and children still be there? At that time, not to mention his woman and child, even the human race might not be around. The universe was always expanding, and new territories were being developed. Everything in the universe was also evolving, and those that could not keep up would eventually be eliminated. If humans continued to fight like this, and only cared about the benefits in front of them, and wantonly destroyed the environment, the day of destruction would be closer and closer. The incomparably huge Sky City entered the darkness. The inside of Sky City shone with blue light, but outside it was endless darkness. Occasionally, a stream of light flashed by, but it was impossible to see clearly what it was. Rumble, a loud sound. Sky City suddenly flew forward at a speed that could not be described with words. Just at the moment before it accelerated, the roots of the blue energy tree wrapped up Isatab and Kasha Ruiz like a cocoon. Charlotte was in the energy tree, and he was not wrapped up, but his consciousness was getting more and more hazy, and he was about to fall into a deep sleep. He left just like that. If it was possible, he wanted to call home, whether it was Shinatianin, or Long Bing, or Jiang Rui and Fan Fan, or even Tang Yuyin and Liang Xiao, who picked up the phone. He wanted to hear their voices one last time, and he wanted to tell them that he loved them. He also wanted to hear his children call him Daddy, Daddy for the last time. However, there were so many ifs. He left just like that. A mysterious and unknown world was waiting for him in front, and he had no idea what was in that world. In that world, there would be a new life waiting for him, but he also had two enemies that he could not defeat, and that was Isatab and Kasha Ruiz, who were also in this city. He did not want to think about those two, and while his brain still had a bit of thinking, he thought to himself, my wives, my children, even if there's a trace of hope, I have to think of a way to come back. Wait for me. His thoughts completely stopped, and his vision turned black, and he did not know anything. Chapter 13:15. People had no sense of time when they were asleep or unconscious. Perhaps it was as long as 10,000 years, or perhaps it was as short as a night. Charlotte had no sense of time, but he had a sense of light. After an unknown amount of time, light gradually appeared in his vision. The light was getting stronger, and the light made his body feel warm. His consciousness returned at this time. His mind flashed with images like a movie. The mysterious sky city and the blue energy tree, the world box and the world supply, and finally Isatab and Kasha Ruiz. When the faces of the two ultimate evolutions appeared in his mind, he suddenly opened his eyes. The light was dazzling, and there was a vast expanse of white in front of him. Charlotte subconsciously raised his hand to cover his eyes to observe the environment around him. His vision quickly adapted to the new environment, but it was this adaptation that caused him to be stunned on the spot. He thought he should be in the Sky City, but he found that he was standing in a desert. His vision was full of yellow sand, stones, and withered yellow weeds. There was a rolling mountain range in the distance, but there was not a single tree on the top of those mountains. He looked up at the sky. A huge star hung in the sky, and there was a small planet on the side of that star. It was blue and very eye-catching. His first thought was that it was the sun and the moon, but after a closer look, it was not. The star that glowed and heated was obviously bigger than the sun, and the moon was not blue. Just from the huge star and the blue planet in the sky, it could be concluded that this was really another planet, and his feet were standing on the land of a new world. This world gave him a feeling of being scorched by the star, and it was dead. The Sky City flew me here, but where did it go? And Isatab and Kasha Ruiz, where did those two go? Charlotte thought about this question in his heart, but he did not have the slightest clue. Suddenly, he thought of something and hurriedly retracted his gaze from the sky to the ground beside him. The world box and the crystal skull were not with him, and there was not even a piece of cloth on his body. He was like a newborn baby who was once again abandoned in this desolate place by his mother. Is this the hometown of Isatab and Kasha Ruiz? Xiale walked forward. His first goal was to find out the answer to this question. That was the most basic. The dry sand and pebbles made his feet uncomfortable. In the process of walking, he found that the air in this world was similar to that on Earth. There was oxygen. However, the air density here was slightly higher than that of Earth. He came to the conclusion that the nights here must be very cold, because the density of air was inversely proportional to the temperature. That was the only difference. After being in this environment for a long time, he felt that it was no different from Earth. Walking in this uninhabited desert, he felt like he was walking in the northwest of his motherland. When this feeling emerged, he began to miss home. He could not help picturing the faces of his women and children. At this time, they must be looking for me all over the world, right? They must be very sad if they can't find me. Can time heal their wounds and let them gradually forget me? Charlotte's heart was filled with sadness, and his eyes were quietly moist. In that world, he was the richest man in the world. Women, wealth, and power were all he wanted. But now, he did not even have a piece of clothing. He was probably the poorest person in this world. If there was anyone in this world, he did not care about wealth or power, but when he thought of his women and children, he could not help but feel sad. He missed the smell on their bodies and the super big bed at home. Just like that, a few hours passed by as he walked and thought. An undulating mountain range blocked Xia Lei's path. The peaks of the mountain range were not very tall, with an average elevation of about 1,000 meters. Charlotte chose the highest mountain to climb. He had to get out of this desert. Now, his first goal to understand this world had been put aside after finding water and food. This was necessary. Even he would be weak without water and food for a few days. He may be able to persist longer than ordinary people, but if he did not drink or eat for 10 days or half a month, he would probably die here. The chosen person of the world box that contained the mysteries of the universe, Comrade Charlotte, came to the new world by Sky City and then starved to death in a barren desert. If this was the final result, it must be the best joke of the year in the entire universe. Because of the slightly higher gravity on Earth, Charlotte actually felt a little tired when climbing the mountain. A mountain a little more than 1,000 meters above sea level would only take him 10 minutes to climb on Earth, but here, it took him a full 40 minutes to climb to the highest point of the mountain. Climbing such a mountain actually makes me feel a little tired. Is it because of this world or because of my body? Charlotte did not climb to the highest point and stopped. He was ready to check the internal situation of his body. The energy of the branding power was awakened, but just as he was about to use the energy of the branding power to run through his whole body and then get the internal information of his body, the branding power suddenly stopped. He tried again, and the result was the same. He awakened the energy of the branding power, and in less than a second, the energy of the branding power stopped moving. He then tried the third and fourth time, and the result was still the same. If his branding power energy was compared to a machine, then now the machine had broken down. Did Sky City do something to me? That blue energy tree? Or is there some other reason? Xia Lei felt terrible. Such an obvious failure. But he could not find any reason other than guessing, let alone find solution. Losing a powerful ability from a Superman to a mortal, that kind of drop was not something that anyone could bear. After a few minutes of tension and loss, Charlotte calmed down again. This situation was bad for him, but it was not irreparable. This was because the power of his brand did not disappear, it was still in his body. It had a problem now, just like a machine with a problem. As long as the cause of the problem was found, he would definitely be able to find a solution to the problem and fix the machine. After coming out of his bad mood, Charlotte climbed to the highest point of the mountain. A huge basin came into his sight. Unlike the environment behind him, there were forests and rivers in the basin. Seeing the green trees and rivers, Charlotte breathed a long sigh of relief. With forests, there would be food. With the problems of food and water solved, survival would be guaranteed, and he would be qualified to achieve more goals. What is that? Charlotte's gaze suddenly moved to the side of a river, and then he could not look away. There were some houses there, which were very similar to villages on Earth, and looked like a small village. The size and style of those houses are similar to the houses in my hometown. Only humans would build such houses. Could it be that there are humans in this world? Charlotte's heart could not help but be excited. When he first woke up in this world, he was worried that he was the only human in this world, and the rest were the people of Isitabu. The feeling of being the only one in the world was not a good feeling. But the scene before him gave him hope. As long as there were humans, it was good no matter what. Charlotte confirmed his location, and then he walked down the mountain in the direction of the village. After more than an hour of trekking, Charlotte reached the side of the river. Across the river was a forest. Although there were trees everywhere, he did not recognize any of them. After all, this was not the world where he was born and raised. This was a strange world, and the plants here had their own system. If that was the case for plants, what about humans? Charlotte began to worry again. He was worried that the people in the new world were different from him. If he suddenly appeared, the people in the new world would treat him as an anomaly, or even a monster. I should be careful. If it is a village and there are people there, I should be cautious. I should only be a little stronger than a normal person. If they treat me as a monster or an enemy, it will not be a good thing, Charlotte thought to himself. After making up his mind, Charlotte lay down by the river and prepared to drink. After a few hours of trekking, He did not have any clothes to block the light of the star. The water in his body evaporated quickly, and he was already very thirsty. However, just as he was about to drink from the water, he stopped. He was worried that there was something in the water that could not be absorbed into the human body. In the new world, everything was unknown. What the people in this world could eat, he might not be able to eat. A very simple example would be the air on Mars, but the air on Mars was highly toxic. A few breaths of it would kill a person. Therefore, there was no guarantee that there was no similar poison in the water. 2 breaths could kill a person. A green fish suddenly swam in front of Charlotte. Charlotte stared at it, dumbfounded. This fish was an Asian carp. Whether it was shape, size, or scales, it was no different from the Asian carp on Earth. The Asian carp in the river turned back to look at Charlotte. It did not seem to be afraid of him. Charlotte grinned. "Hello." The Asian carp swayed its tail and followed the flow of the river. It seemed to be disdainful of greeting a naked guy. Charlotte giggled, then buried his mouth in the water and gulped it down. The water in the river was so clear that one could see the bottom. It was sweet and refreshing. It was the best taste of mineral water. "Hey, naked guy." A woman's voice suddenly came from behind. "Raise your hand." Chapter 13:16. The sudden voice startled Charlotte, not only because someone had suddenly appeared, but more importantly, the person behind him was speaking Chinese. A new world, a woman, and a very standard Chinese. These elements mixed together, and Charlotte's feelings were in chaos in an instant. This was a new world. How could there be a woman who spoke Chinese? "Hey, didn't you hear what I said? Raise your hand and turn around." The woman's voice carried a trace of anger, as well as vigilance and alertness. Charlotte climbed up from the ground by the river, slowly raised his hand, and slowly turned around. After turning around, he saw the woman. She was very young, only in her early 20s. She was tall, with a pair of strong and plump thighs and sexy buttocks. Her whole body was brimming with a youthful and sexy aura. However, it was a pity that her chest was relatively flat and looked nothing more than a B. She was wearing a military green coat, and there were many pockets on her clothes and pants, very much like the multi-bag outdoor clothes on Earth. However, her clothes were already very shabby. Some places were patched, and some places were torn, revealing snow-white and delicate skin. Her face was painted with green oil paint, and she looked like a Special Forces soldier on Earth. However, the oil paint did not affect her face. Her face was shaped like a goose egg and looked particularly delicate. Her eyes were big, and her lips were slightly thick, making her look particularly sexy. The 2 different elements of delicate and sexy merged into one face, without the slightest conflict. It gave people a feeling that it was so natural, very pleasing to the eye, and very comfortable, so much so that people would ignore her B-sized chest. These were all Charlotte's first impression. After coming to this world, there was a problem with the power of the brand, and his extraordinary ability disappeared, but his brain was not affected much. He was as smart and agile as when he was on Earth. However, in this first impression, the deepest impact on Charlotte was not her beautiful face, nor was it her plump and firm buttocks and long legs, but her lips. He liked women with thick lips, not for any other reason, but because he was an experienced driver in this area. In the woman's hand was a rifle. The rifle looked very shabby, and the body of the gun was rusty. The word Yong was written on the gun in red paint. It was a very standard, simplified Chinese character, and the handwriting was graceful. It was obvious that it was written by a woman. Chinese characters, a rifle that looked like an AK-47, and a woman who seemed to be from the Han nationality. All of these rushed into Charlotte's line of sight. This woman and everything about her seemed so normal, but the impact on him was so great that he was dumbfounded and didn't know what to do. The woman also stared at Charlotte in shock. Just now, when she saw Charlotte but didn't see Charlotte's face, she imagined that he was a rude and shameless man. She even imagined him to be a madman, for only a madman would run around naked. Unexpectedly, when Charlotte turned around, she found that the man she had caught was very good-looking. Not only was this man very good-looking, but there was also something that entered her line of sight without any concealment. It was snow white like jade, giving people the feeling that it was a work of art that was carefully carved out of beautiful jade. This made her feel awkward. The two of them just stared at each other, looking at each other. In fact, both of them had a lot to say in their hearts. But the moment they faced each other, they were both stunned, and her thoughts stopped. It took a few seconds for the woman to come to her senses. She shouted, "Hey, you can put your hand down and cover that place." When she spoke, her expression was very unnatural. Because her face was painted with green paint, it was impossible to see whether she was blushing or not. Charlotte tried to awaken his X-ray vision, and then he tried to see through the woman's body. However, his purpose was not to spy on her body, but to find some clues about her, such as identity documents or something. However, after one attempt, he found that his X-ray vision, which he was best at, had disappeared and could not be used. This made him feel very uncomfortable and even a little depressed. However, he also knew that this was normal, because his ability to see through things was based on the power of the imprint. Right now, his power of the imprint could not be used normally, so naturally, his ability to see through things could not be used normally. The woman shook the old assault rifle in her hand and said fiercely, "You guy, don't you understand what I'm saying? I told you to put your hand down and cover that ugly thing of yours." Charlotte did as he was told. He put his hands down and covered the thing between his legs. The woman stared straight at Charlotte. "You can understand what I'm saying?" Charlotte nodded. "Yes, I can understand what you're saying." "That's good." The woman said, "I need you to answer a question for me." Charlotte nodded again. "Okay, ask away. Tell me your name. Where are you from? Where did your clothes go? What happened? Why are you here? What do you want to do here?" The woman spoke very quickly, like pouring beans. "Is this a question?" Charlotte felt strange. He was silent for a moment before saying, "My name is Charlotte. I'm from... Where are you from?" The woman urged. Charlotte raised his hand. "What do you want to do? Put your hand down and cover that thing of yours." The woman shook the old assault rifle in his hand. She looked fierce, but there was no intention to attack in her eyes. However, Saleh did not listen to her instructions. He hugged his head with both hands and rubbed his hair, looking like he was in great pain. "What's wrong with you?" For some reason, the woman's voice carried a trace of concern. A good-looking woman could always easily win a man's favor. Similarly, a good-looking man could always easily win a woman's favor and even sympathy. Charlotte said painfully, "I can't remember anything except my name. Where am I from? What happened? I don't know. When I woke up, I found myself on the other side of the mountain. I was very hungry. In order to find food and water, I came here." "You mean to say that other than your name, you can't remember anything?" The woman looked very surprised. There was a trace of suspicion in her eyes. Charlotte said, "I know it is hard for you to believe, but it is true." He rubbed his hair with all his might. His expression became even more pained. Pretending to have amnesia was an old plot in those television dramas back on Earth. Even a 14-year-old girl on Earth would not be fooled by such a plot, but Charlotte had no other choice. He could not tell the woman in front of him that he came from another planet, and that a city made of stone had flown him here. The best way to solve this problem was to pretend to have amnesia. "You want to lie to me?" the woman said. Charlotte spread out his hands. "Why would I lie to you? What can I gain by lying to you?" The woman suddenly turned her face away. "Cover up that ugly thing of yours, or I will blow it up. I am sorry." Charlotte quickly used his hands to cover the place between his legs. Just now, he could have pounced on the woman and snatched the gun from her hand when she was not looking at him. But he did not do that. He needed to understand this new world, and the woman in front of him was obviously a key person who could help him solve this problem. Also, she was only pointing the gun at him and did not attack him. If he pounced on her and snatched her gun, then they would become enemies. He did not want to become enemies when he just arrived in this world. "Did you cover it up?" "I covered it up," Charlotte said. The woman turned around and looked at Charlotte again. "Think again. Other than your name, what else can you remember?" Charlotte raised his hand to rub his hair again. "All right, You don't have to think about it. The woman hurriedly stopped Charlotte. Thank you, thank you. Charlotte was very polite and careful. I promise you, as long as I remember anything, I will tell you first. Now, can you tell me where this place is? You don't know where this place is? Charlotte smiled bitterly. I have already told you the reason. I can't remember anything except my name. This is Area 51. What? Xiaolei was taken aback for a moment. When he heard about Area 51 from this woman's mouth, the image of the Area 51 military base in Nevada that he had bombed with his bombers naturally appeared in his mind. However, the basin in front of him and the forest were obviously not a U.S. military base. Okay, come with me. What you need now is not a problem, but a piece of clothing. Don't you know that? You look ugly like this. The woman put away the gun and walked in the direction of the village. Charlotte followed the woman's footsteps and said as he walked, Can you tell me your name? The woman hesitated for a moment before saying, Leonai. Leonai? Charlotte repeated and then smiled. Your name is very nice. Enough. Don't be glib with me. Sorry, I'm just telling the truth. You are very beautiful, and your name matches you very well. Charlotte said. Leonai shifted her eyes and glared at Charlotte. Charlotte smiled bitterly. He did not praise her like this because he wanted to flirt with her. He just wanted to please her and get her help. The woman did not speak and walked very fast. Charlotte followed her for a while and then said aloud, Miss Lee, are you Han? Han? What Han? Han. Of course it's an ethnic group. I don't know what Han is. I have never heard of it. As for the ethnic group you mentioned, aren't we all the same? The woman asked rhetorically. Yes, we are the same. Charlotte said this, but in his heart he secretly said she speaks Chinese and there are Chinese characters on her gun, but she doesn't know what Han is. What is going on? When we reach the village, behave yourself. If I find out you have any bad intentions, I will kill you. The woman warned. Miss Lee, please rest assured. I have no choice but to come here, and I have no ill intentions. If you can help me, I will be very grateful. Charlotte said. Lee and I continued to walk forward. Charlotte asked as he walked, Miss Lee, don't call me Miss anymore. Just call me by my name. Well, can you tell me what year it is this year? I even forgot this. I don't know. How is that possible? This is not a secret. You don't have to be wary of me. This question is very important to me. Please tell me. Charlotte said. Lee's face showed a trace of a bitter smile. I really don't know. Charlotte was slightly stunned. Then can you tell me how to get to the nearest city? You want to go to the city? Lee and I suddenly looked back at Charlotte. You are not serious, are you? Of course I'm serious. You don't want to tell me anything. I want to go to the city. I think I can find the answer in the city. Charlotte said. It seemed that you were really sick. You don't remember anything. Lee and I looked away from Charlotte. Come with me. There is a doctor in the village. I hope he can help you. Charlotte's heart was filled with confusion. All of these converged into one question. What kind of world is this? Chapter 13:17. The path by the river was paved with mud and pebbles. Charlotte walked barefoot on it, and the feeling was really sour. He covered the place between his legs with both hands and followed behind Lee and I. He was embarrassed to death with his but bare. After walking for about half an hour, the village by the river came into Charlotte's sight. He saw the fishing net set up by the river and the woman weaving the net. There were men working in the fields next to the village, but the tools they used were the most primitive hoes. There were no electric posts or power lines near the village. At first glance, the village gave Charlotte the feeling that it was an ancient and isolated village. Until now, only the broken assault rifle in Lee's hand could make him feel like he was in modern society. If it weren't for the assault rifle in Lee's hand, he would even suspect that Sky City had brought him to a very backward world, like the ancient times of China. That Lee and I. Charlotte looked hesitant. Can you lend me your coat? What do you want my coat for? Lee and I stopped and stared straight at Charlotte. Charlotte said awkwardly, I can't follow you into the village like this, can I? Lee and I furrowed her brows. You mean you want to use my clothes to wrap your butt in your... She didn't finish her sentence, but her eyes glanced at Xia Lei's private part, and then she made a disgusted expression. Cover my body with clothes? What's wrong with that? Charlotte shrugged. I can lend it to you, but you have to wash it for me, said Leonai. No problem. I'll make sure you're clean, Xiaolei said. Leonai took off her coat and handed it to Charlotte. She still had a sports vest on her body. Because of her relatively small chest, she didn't have a bra at all. Thus, two protrusions appeared clearly under the black cloth. They were hazy and very alluring. What are you looking at? Leonai said fiercely. If you dare to look at it again, I won't be polite to you. Charlotte smiled bitterly and looked away. Then, he used Leonie's jacket to cover his butt and his ugly parts. Remember to wash me clean. You are wearing my best clothes. Leonai said. Charlotte, how could such a tattered dress be her best dress? Charlotte couldn't help but think that if she was given a wardrobe of any woman in the house, she would probably faint from happiness when she saw those clothes. Leonai continued to move forward, and Charlotte once again became her follower. Before entering the village, someone noticed Leonai and Charlotte. The women weaving the nets and the men farming stopped what they were doing and looked at Leonai and Charlotte. They mainly looked at Charlotte because he was too conspicuous. Charlotte's skin was white and clean, more delicate than the skin of a pampered woman. He looked very strong, and the impression he gave was always unforgettable. A very sturdy, dark-skinned young man walked over. He was also holding an assault rifle in his hand. That gun looked even more tattered than the assault rifle in Leonie's hand. Leonai, who is he? The dark-skinned young man asked from afar. Charlotte, Leonai said. Charlotte. The dark-skinned young man looked at Charlotte with a strange expression. When he saw that Charlotte's waist was wrapped in Leonie's clothes, there was a hint of displeasure between his eyebrows. Black Tiger, let's go back and talk. It's not good for him to stay outside like this. Right, after we go back, lend him a set of your pants and jacket. Leonai said. What? You actually want me to lend him my clothes? The young man called Black Tiger had a face of reluctance. Leonai said, All right, next time we go to the junkyard, if I find suitable clothes, I'll give them to you first. Black Tiger spread his hands. All right, you're the village chief. You have the final say. Charlotte gave Black Tiger a friendly smile. He secretly said in his heart, I didn't expect her to be the village chief, but this village is too poor. Even the clothes worn by the villagers have to be picked up from the junkyard. If it was on Earth, I'm afraid that even the tribes in Africa would not be so poor. This new world, the people in this world, and this ridiculously poor village, all of this made Charlotte curious, and at the same time puzzled. Hey, kid, come with me. Black Tiger was not polite. He and Leonai seemed to have a habit of saying hey as soon as they opened their mouths. Charlotte's face still maintained a friendly smile. Black Tiger brought Charlotte into the village and then brought Charlotte to a room. This was a very simple house with only a few pieces of furniture. It was also handmade from wood cut from the forest. There was not even a bit of paint. It was unknown how long the furniture had been used. Without the protection of paint, it looked dirty. Charlotte's gaze moved to a corner of the room, and something suddenly caught his attention. It was some metal products that looked like parts removed from some kind of machine. However, those parts were not ordinary metal parts, such as cast iron and steel, but a silver alloy that he had never seen before. Moreover, judging from the manufacturing level of those parts, they were far from what the civilization on Earth could produce. Looking at those alloy parts, Charlotte was completely confused. From what he saw, he felt that even if there was a human civilization in this world, it would not be more advanced than the human civilization on Earth, and even a lot more backward. However, when he saw these high-precision alloy parts, this idea was completely reversed. The civilization of this new world was many times more advanced than the human civilization on Earth. What kind of world is this? This question popped up again and troubled him. However, even if he wanted to know the answer, he did not open his mouth to ask this time. He believed that he would eventually figure it out, and it would not take too long. If he always asked people strange questions, he would attract more attention and even suspicion. It would not be worth it. Black Tiger took out a shirt and a pair of pants from a dirty box, and then handed them to Charlotte. There were a lot of dark red marks on the pants and clothes, and there were several bullet holes on the clothes. Charlotte could see at a glance that the owner of the clothes was shot to death. It was not Black Tiger's clothes at all. This made him seem a little hesitant. What? You don't want it? This is the best clothes I found in the junkyard. Black Tiger looked very unhappy. Charlotte said, I don't mean that. I just want to ask if you have any shoes to lend me. You're really thick-skinned. Don't you know how precious a pair of shoes is? How can you just casually ask to borrow from others? Don't you have any shame? Black Tiger said sarcastically. His face also had a look of contempt. Charlotte did not look angry at all. He still smiled and said, Brother Black Tiger, lend me a pair. I will get you a new pair in the future. Black Tiger sneered. What did you say? Give me a new pair of shoes? How dare you say something like that? You're really thick-skinned. I will do what I say. Lend me a pair. Charlotte said with a smile. You wait. Black Tiger took out a pair of boots from under the bed and threw it at Charlotte's feet. The boots were not made of cowhide, but a composite material. The material looked like it was made of metal and plastic. It was very special and had never been seen on Earth. The soles of the boots were very thick. Because he had lost his ability to see through them, Charlotte could not see what was inside. However, he felt that the shoes were very heavy. They weighed at least 5 pounds. 5 pounds of shoes was almost the total weight of 6 or 7 pairs of normal shoes. Such shoes would definitely not be comfortable to wear. Black Tiger sneered. Didn't you want the shoes? This is something from the Blue Moon people. You need 10 women to exchange for it on the black market. However, its power unit is broken. You can only wear it. Blue Moon people? Charlotte was surprised. Okay, put on the clothes and leave. This is my home. I don't like you staying in my home. Black Tiger seemed a little impatient. Okay, no problem. I will leave immediately. Charlotte began to put on his clothes. When Charlotte put on his pants, Black Tiger said with a smirk on his face, these clothes were actually taken from a dead body. Charlotte smiled at him and left Black Tiger's room with the Blue Moon people's boots. The empty space outside Black Tiger's house was filled with people. Some were old people, some were children with dirty faces, and some were young people with guns and knives. There were men and women, and they looked like the warriors of this village. There were not many of them. There were only 22 of them. Including Black Tiger, there were 23 of them. Leah and I stood at the front. She had changed her clothes, but they looked even more worn. She was right. The clothes she lent to Charlotte to cover his, but were her best clothes. Almost everyone in the village was there. Men and women, young and old, they all stared at Charlotte. Their eyes were filled with curiosity and wariness. Yes. A friendly smile appeared on Charlotte's face. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte. Nice to meet you all. No one responded to him. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. Is there anything you need me to do? Being stared at by so many people, and no one said anything, Charlotte did not know what to say. Lee and I said, Charlotte, I have already told everyone about your situation. They want to see you. Don't be nervous. No, you're all good people. Charlotte said something nice. An old man suddenly showed his yellow teeth and said darkly, he is so white. He must be delicious. Charlotte was speechless. Okay, old man Martin, don't tell your cannibalism story anymore. Lee and I had a look of disgust. Yes, I have heard 100 times. A little boy said. The old man called Old Man Martin chuckled and did not take it seriously. Lee and I said, Charlotte, everyone in our village fled here from the outside. Everyone has their own story. I believe you have one too. Charlotte nodded. I must have, but I forgot. Lee and I said, I don't care whether you forget or remember. I ask you now, do you want to stay? I want to stay. Charlotte answered very simply. He did not even understand what was going on in this world. Of course, he wanted to stay. Well, what can you do? Lee and I said, everyone here has a division of labor. Some people can farm, some can fish, some can cure diseases, and some can hunt. No one eats for free. If you want to stay, you have to work. Tell me, what can you do? I can. Charlotte knew a lot of things. But if he, a person with amnesia, suddenly said that he could do this and that, wouldn't that be exposing his own lies? It doesn't matter. You can learn. People are not born to know everything. Lee and I said. Black Tiger walked out of his room and signaled to the soldiers with his eyes. He is so white. He must be someone who lives like a prince. Maybe he is a lackey of the Blue Moon people. A warrior said, yes, he has to tell us what he can do. Then we will see if he is valuable. Then we can decide if we want him to stay or not. Another warrior said. Li Ni's face immediately revealed a displeased expression, but more people stood on the opposite side of her, and she wanted to speak up for Xiaolei, but she had some misgivings. At this time, Charlotte said, why don't I try to fix this pair of shoes? What? A surprised voice sounded. Chapter 13:18. There's a lot of surprised voices, a lot of surprised eyes, and a lot of surprised people. All of this was because of Charlotte's try to fix this pair of shoes. So Charlotte was also surprised. Wasn't it just a pair of shoes? Why were these people so surprised? Charlotte was careful. Did I say something wrong? Are you kidding? Black Tiger said, that belongs to the Blue Moon people. How can you fix it? Xiaolei shrugged. What's wrong with that? Isn't it just a pair of shoes? Moreover, it doesn't look complicated. I think I can fix it. He's lying. Someone said. Let him fix it on the spot. If he can't fix it, kick him out. Someone said. A man can be forgiven for living off a woman, but if a man likes to talk big while living off a woman, then that's unforgivable. Black Tiger finally spoke slowly. Let him fix it. If he can't fix it, we won't take in people like him. Charlotte said lightly. Can you find some tools for me? I need some tools. Big Bear, go get some tools for him. Black Tiger said to a warrior. Deshiong was the first person to question Xiaolei's words. This person was big and burly, and he had a thick black beard on his face. He looked a little like a bear. It was unknown whether his name was because of his appearance or because his surname was Bear. The warrior called Big Bear went to get tools for Charlotte. Because of Black Tiger's gaze, the warriors in the village looked at Charlotte with bad intentions. Charlotte could also see that although Li Ni was the village chief, her reputation among the warriors was not high. It was not even comparable to Black Tiger's. Li Ni walked to the side of Black Tiger and whispered, Is there something wrong with your brain? You actually said that you can fix the Blue Moon people's boots. Who do you think you are? Who are the Blue Moon people? Charlotte felt that this was a good opportunity to ask questions. You don't even know who Lan Yu is? Li Ni's eyes were filled with surprise. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Didn't I tell you? I don't remember anything. Then why did you say you could fix the Blue Moon people's boots? Li Ni glared at Charlotte. Are you stupid? I don't know what it is, but I think I can fix it. I have a feeling because I'm very familiar with mechanical things. Charlotte said. He was the most powerful mechanic and electrical engineer on Earth. No matter how powerful the Blue Moon people's technology was, it was just a pair of combat boots. It could not be more complicated than the Kuan Peng bomber that he had created, could it? Therefore, even though he had never touched the Blue Moon people's boots before, he was confident that he could fix them. If you can fix the Blue Moon people's boots, I'll tell you. If you can't, Li and I sighed. You'll have to leave this place. For Charlotte, it would be great if he could stay, but he wouldn't mind if he couldn't. He could not stay in this place forever. He would have to leave sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. Deshiong brought over a toolbox. The toolbox was filled with many mechanic tools. These tools were slightly different from the mechanic tools that Charlotte was familiar with, but he could still tell the classification and use of these tools at a glance. After handing the tools to Charlotte, Deshiong said in a rough voice, I've brought the tools you wanted. Fix it. I want to see how you're going to fix it. Charlotte smiled. He did not pick a place to do so. He took out a knife and opened the sole of a combat boot. After the sole was opened, what entered Charlotte's eyes was a power assistance device that he had never seen before. It had a complicated circuit and a mechanical structure. At first glance, Charlotte felt that it was more complicated than a car engine on Earth. After observing it for a while, Charlotte's eyes moved to the center of the power assistance device. He found a cylindrical crystal part the size of a thumb. His heart skipped a beat. It looks like the energy bar used by Isotab. Is this the thing that provides energy for this drive device? Does it play the role of a battery in a remote control car? Go ahead and cultivate. Black Tiger urged. Why are you dawdling? Don't try to delay the time, and don't make excuses. You only have one chance. Li and I said, Black Tiger, why are you doing this? There are only a few people in the entire Area 5-1 who can fix line use things. Those few people also need time. We have to give them some time. Okay then. Black Tiger shrugged. Lee and I said to Charlotte, "Don't worry. Take your time to think. I'll give you 1 day." Leanie's words made Black Tiger frown. Some of the soldiers also showed dissatisfaction. However, the village chief was the leader of the village. Although these people were dissatisfied, they did not show it. Black Tiger also did not urge Charlotte again. At this time, Chung Li said, "I don't need 1 day. Just give me a few minutes." Ha ha ha. Black Tiger laughed. "Village chief, you are kind enough to give him time, but he doesn't appreciate it." Lee and I glared at Charlotte with some embarrassment. "I don't care. You said you can fix it in a few minutes. Then I will only give you a few minutes. It's just a small problem," Charlotte said. He used a tool similar to a knife to remove the circuit board on the power auxiliary device, and then quickly pried off a circuit component from it. "Hey, kid, if you break my boots, I will not let you go easily," Black Tiger said with a gloomy face. Charlotte did not pay attention to him. He quickly dismantled the sole and circuit board of the other boot, then removed the same circuit component from the circuit board of the other boot and installed it on the circuit board he removed first. Finally, he installed the circuit board on the power auxiliary device. The moment the circuit board was in place, the cylindrical crystal-like thing suddenly emitted a faint blue light. It felt like a blue ambient light. Although the light was not very strong, it was very obvious. The large group of villagers and warriors who were watching the show were all stunned. Xia Lei casually threw the tools into the toolbox. "I wonder if this counts as a fix. Hurry up and install it." "Let me try," Lee and I urged. "No problem." Charlotte installed the sole and then put the installed boot at Lee's feet. Lee and I couldn't wait to take off one of her shoes and put her foot into the combat boot. She looked at the boot left and right, and she seemed very excited. A large group of warriors also looked at the boot on Lee's feet. They did not hide their desire for the boot. Xiao Lei thought to himself, "It seems like they're all eager to get their hands on these boots. I don't know what the so-called Blue Moon people's boots are used for, but I don't think it's just for walking." In Charlotte's imagination, Lee and I suddenly stomped on the ground with her right foot that was wearing the boot. There was a cracking sound under her foot, and then her body suddenly shot up from the ground in a straight line. In the blink of an eye, she flew over the roof. "Wow, it's fixed!" someone shouted excitedly. Xiao Lei raised his head and looked at Lee and I. He was also shocked. The gravity in this world was stronger than on Earth. If he had such a pair of boots, it would be easier to move around. However, in his imagination, Lee and I, who had flown over the roof, suddenly fell down. Her landing point happened to be right on top of his head. Charlotte could have dodged it, but the moment Lee and I smashed down on him, he changed his mind. If he dodged it, wouldn't village chiefly fall on his face? He had to stay in this village for a while, and he still had to rely on village chief Lee's protection. If she was humiliated, it would not be a good thing for him. With this thought in mind, he had already made up his mind. This time, he had to be village chief Lee's human shield. "Ah!" Lee and I screamed and smashed into Charlotte's body. "Ouch!" Charlotte pretended to scream and fell to the ground with Lee and I in his arms. Lee's chest pressed against his face. Although it was only a B-cup size, it was still a woman's chest. The feeling of being pressed against his face was very obvious. In that instant, the soft pressure and the faint scent of a woman's body surged into his mind. That feeling was very tempting. Lee and I suddenly propped herself up. She did not have time to get up from Charlotte's body. She asked anxiously, "Are you okay? You almost crushed me to death." Charlotte pretended to be in pain. Only then did Lee and I react. She hurriedly got up from Charlotte's body. Charlotte was still lying on the ground, pretending to be dead. He kept moaning and looked like he was in pain. The more he pretended to be in pain, the more Lee and I would feel guilty. Once she felt guilty, it would be easier for her to fulfill his request. He lay on the ground and moaned. In fact, he was already thinking about what questions he should ask later. "This guy looks so strong. It's just a hit. Is it really that painful?" Bear said with disdain. "This guy's muscles must have been made by eating medicine to satisfy some rich people with special needs," someone said. Don't talk about him like that. He's a technician who can repair the equipment of the Blue Moon people. Such a person can live well wherever he goes, a villager said. Looks like our village is in luck. We picked up a treasure for nothing, another villager said. Some people said bad things, while others said good and bad things. The scene was noisy. Lee and I reached out and pulled Charlotte up. Follow me home. I'll wipe you with wine. Okay. Charlotte stopped moaning and agreed very quickly. Just as Charlotte was about to leave with Lee and I, Black Tiger said, Charlotte, can you fix the other one? Charlotte said, of course, but I need parts. If you can find the parts, I can help you fix it. Okay, I'll go look for it right now. Haha, thank you. Black Tiger turned around and left, but he turned back after taking a step. Chief, I'll lend you that boot for a day. You have to return it to me tomorrow. Lee and I immediately took off the boot and put on our own shoes. I have Charlotte. I don't care about your boots. You? Black Tiger choked. Charlotte followed Lee and I and thought to himself, you wanted to chase me away just now, and now you want me to fix your shoes. Just you wait. Chapter 1319. The village chief's house was at the back of the village. It was an independent small courtyard. The courtyard was surrounded by a wooden fence, and the wooden fence was covered with roses. Roses bloomed on the branches one after another, forming a beautiful cluster of flowers. Behind the courtyard was a vegetable field planted with cucumbers and tomatoes. The cucumber vines were covered with cucumbers, one after another. Tomatoes were also hanging on the branches, some red and some green. This place was clean and simple. There was no hustle and bustle of the city, and there was no desire. It gave people a sense of tranquility and nature. This place is really good. I like it here. Charlotte said. Lee and I said, you can stay here for a few days. Charlotte said with a smile, just for a few days? Lee and I glared at Charlotte. Of course it's only for a few days. Do you want to stay here forever? Charlotte said with a smile. Why do you always stare at me? Staring at people is not a habit a woman should have. Besides, you can't live in such a big courtyard by yourself. Isn't it a waste to leave it empty? You're really a cheeky person. I'll let you stay here for a few days. In these few days, you have to build your own house. Charlotte spread his hands. I can't build a house in a few days. Do you have the heart to drive me out to sleep on the ground? That's none of my business. Don't expect me to take you in. You're a man. You should build your own home. Charlotte said with a smile, you brought me here. How is it none of your business? Are you trying to pin the blame on me? Charlotte said with a smile, all right, don't be nervous. I'll build my own house and move out. After a pause, he said, which room do I live in? Come with me. Lee and I led Charlotte to a room. The room was very simple. There was only a bed, a table, and a stool. There was a blanket on the bed. It looked very shabby, but it was very clean. Is this your room? Said Charlotte. Lee and I said, this is my mother's room. This village was built by my father. I was born here, and I grew up here. Then your parents. As soon as the words left his mouth, Charlotte regretted it. He felt that he shouldn't have asked. As expected, a trace of sadness appeared in Lini's eyes. They're all dead. They died at the hands of the Blue Moon people. I'm sorry, Charlotte apologized. It's nothing. You don't have to apologize to me. Lee and I shook her head as if she was trying to shake off the worries in her heart. She then smiled and said, I know you have a lot of questions to ask me. Tell me. I will definitely do what I promised you. Thank you. I really forgot everything. I have too many questions that I want to understand, but if I ask you one by one, you will feel annoyed. Why don't you talk to me? Let's start with the Blue Moon people. Tell me about them. You really are a monster. You can repair the Blue Moon people's equipment, but you don't know what they are. Lee and I sat on the bed and said, you should have seen the blue thing in the sky, right? Of course I saw it. That star is so obvious. Charlotte sat on the stool. It's called the Blue Moon. It's not a planet. It's the Blue Moon people's base. The Blue Moon people live on it. They see us as prey. Every once in a while, they will come down to hunt. In their eyes, we're the same as the fish in the river. We're just their food. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Do the Blue Moon people have big eyes, but small noses and mouths? Yes, you've seen it, haven't you? Leonai glared at Charlotte again. If you've seen it, why are you asking me? Are you bored? Do I look that bored to you? Yes. Leonai was very sure. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Of course I've seen it, but didn't I forget everything? What you said just now must have triggered my memory. I remembered something, but my memory is still a blur. Talk to me again. This is very important to me. Leonai asked, what else do you want to know? Charlotte said, you said that is the Blue Moon People's base. Why is it in the sky? Did it exist from the beginning, or did it come here later? Of course it came later. The Star of Hope was not theirs at all. About 1,000 years ago, they invaded this place. They destroyed one city after another and treated all the people as food. Our civilization was destroyed. After 1,000 years of continuous suppression and slavery, we are about to return to a primitive society. Charlotte was shocked. He thought to himself, so the Sky City did not bring me to the planet of Isatab and Keja Ruiz. Instead, it brought me to a planet with humans. But the people here can actually speak Chinese. Could it be that they immigrated from Earth? If this hypothesis is true, then I have arrived in the future. Leonai did not know what Charlotte was thinking. She continued, 1,000 years ago, the civilization we built on this planet was very advanced. We also had our own spaceships and robot warriors. The people living on this planet did not need to do any manual labor at all to obtain a rich distribution of resources. We also had a scientific research institute with millions of people engaged in scientific research in various fields. At that time, it was the golden age of our human civilization. Our leader was prepared to take us to a more distant star system. He formulated a 1,000-year plan for us, but before this plan could be implemented, the Blue Moon people came. Charlotte could not help but interrupt Leonai. Where did our ancestors come from 1,000 years ago? I'm not very sure about that. In 1,000 years, our civilization was completely destroyed. There were very few things left behind. Were there no history books or CDs left behind? Leonai smiled bitterly. We were forced to learn how to avoid the pursuit of the Blue Moon people since we were born. How could we have the chance to come into contact with books, let alone go to school? If you were in a world where you were treated as food and could be eaten at any time, would you learn how to fight, or would you go read? This is why technicians are so precious. In our peaceful village, I am the only one who can barely recognize a few words. That was taught to me by my mother. The others can't even write their own names. Charlotte's heart was filled with emotion. There must be some legends, right? You could tell me a legend. There is a legend, Leonai said. Leonai said, I heard my father talk about it once. He told me that our ancestors immigrated from a very, very distant planet. That planet seems to be called Earth. Earth, the word drifted into Charlotte's ears, but it was like a hammer smashing heavily on his head. It made him dizzy, his ears ringing, and his thoughts stopping. The civilization on this planet was built by humans on Earth. In fact, there was no need for any history books. The fact that the people here could speak Mandarin was irrefutable evidence. Am I in the future? After catching his breath, Xiaolei could not help but blurt out this sentence. What did you say? Leonai looked at Charlotte curiously. Nothing. Charlotte quickly changed the topic. The leader you mentioned, do you have any legends about him? Leonai grinned. Are you talking about the Holy Thunder? Even a 3-year-old knows about the legends about him. How could he not know? Charlotte's body swayed, and he almost fell off the stool. Holy Thunder. Wasn't that the name given to him by Giovanna and the other female knights? How did it become the leader of this planet? Charlotte's brain was in a complete mess. Hey, are you okay? Leonai looked at Charlotte in surprise. There's something wrong with my nerves. I really wanted to scream just now. Charlotte really thought so. Everything he had seen and heard since coming here had almost driven him crazy. Leonai said, I can see that there's really something wrong with your brain. After a pause, she added, You're just a smart fool. Charlotte was speechless. The Holy Thunder started the civilization of this planet. When he was here, the people on this planet were very happy. There was no war and there was no crime. Everyone has a chance to find their own place in society, to realize their dreams, and to be satisfied with the rewards. The people on this planet worshipped him like a god. Although I don't believe in the existence of any god, from the legends I have heard about him, I am full of respect for him. If I live in his era, I believe I would also worship him like a god. Holy Thunder, he is the legend of us humans. Charlotte couldn't help but ask, the Holy Thunder you mentioned, what happened to him in the end? He died in battle, Leonai said. When the Blue Moon people invaded, he led our army to fight against them, but they lost in the end. It was said that he died at the hands of the Blue Moon people's king. His body couldn't even be found. To commemorate him, people built a cenotaph for him in the 1st District, but later, the Blue Moon people destroyed the cenotaph. That place has become a ruin. What about the king of the Blue Moon people? It is said that he is still alive. There are also rumors that the king of the Blue Moon people also died in battle, but there is no way to confirm it, Leonai said. Charlotte thought to himself, if I have the chance, I must go to the cenotaph of the Holy Thunder. I must get to the bottom of this. He can't be me, and it's impossible for me to enter an era where I don't exist. The Holy Thunder that Leonai mentioned and the name that Giovanna and the others gave me are probably just coincidences. This is the only explanation. What are you thinking about? Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. I seem to have thought of something just now, but I forgot it in the blink of an eye. I almost forgot. I said that I would let the doctor take a look at you. I will go call her now, Leonai said. Charlotte said, no need. My illness can't be cured by your village doctor here. Don't worry about me. I think I can recover on my own. Also, you can talk to me more. It will be helpful for my illness. Leonai stood up and said, I don't have that kind of free time. You rest for a while. I will call you later. What for? Leonai said, to take you to the garbage dump. You want to take me to pick up garbage? Of course. Charlotte was speechless. Should he tell her that he was the richest man in the world? Chapter 13:20. Where did the Sky City go? Where did Cassiar Ruiz go? Where did Cassiar Ruiz go? Lying on the hard bed, Charlotte quietly pondered these questions in his heart. However, what caused him more trouble were the legends that Leonai talked to him about, the Earth, Chinese, and the Holy Thunder. He was 100% sure that it wasn't him because he had never been here, let alone leading human immigrants to build a new civilization here. Did the Sky City bring him to the future world? If this assumption is true, then there should be a corresponding past space-time in the universe. So can the Sky City fly him back to the past space-time? He wants to go back to the past and change his life. There were footsteps outside the door. Xiao Lei collected his messy thoughts and shifted his gaze to the source of the sound. He habitually tried to awaken the ability of his eyes, but he still failed to awaken the power of branding in his body. It was just a second of waking up, and the power of branding fell into a deep sleep again. However, although he couldn't see the situation outside the door, he still felt that his vision was very good. Even in a dim environment, he could still clearly see the wood fibers on the door. It seems that I have to work hard to exercise and practice Wing Chun. Without those abilities, I have to make my body stronger. In this dog-eat-dog world, I can only rely on myself. Charlotte thought in his heart. Charlotte, are you in the house? Leanie's voice came from outside the door. I am. Charlotte got out of bed and went to open the door for Leonai. Leonai, who was standing at the door, had washed off the oil paint on her face, and her white skin made her face look even more beautiful. She was carrying a toolbox in her hand, and there was no expression on her face. Charlotte showed a smile. Hello, village leader. Then he reached out to shake hands with Leonai. Leonai just looked at Charlotte and didn't even stretch out her hand. Come with me. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. Are we going to the garbage dump to pick up garbage? Leonai said, don't think it's easy to pick up things in the garbage dump. It's actually very dangerous. We have to make some preparations. Charlotte asked curiously, isn't it just going to the garbage dump to pick up things? What danger could there be? You'll know when the time comes. Come with me. Leonai turned around and left. Charlotte followed behind her. He thought that she would go far, but she only took a dozen steps before turning around and entering a room. Charlotte followed Leonai into the room and saw a lot of scrap mechanical parts. There were also some parts that he had never seen before and didn't even know what they were used for. The room was filled with the smell of engine oil. There was also a strange smell that he couldn't tell what it was. This room was a bit like the machining workshop he had open in Haiju, but there were no machine tools. Charlotte glanced at the toolbox in Leonie's hand and said, "Don't tell me you want me to fix some scrap metal?" Leonie put the toolbox at Charlotte's feet. "You live here, so you must eat my food. I take care of your food and shelter, so you have to do something, right? See what's useful and what can be fixed, and then fix it. I can fix these things, but I have a condition," Charlotte said. Leonie glared at Charlotte. "You're still talking to me about conditions? You're staring at me again. Forget it. I won't argue with you," Charlotte said with a smile. "My condition is very simple. When I work, you have to be my assistant. Also, if my clothes get dirty, you have to wash them for me." "What did you say? Say it again." Leonie's face turned red. Charlotte smiled. "Be my assistant and help me wash my clothes. Am I clear enough?" Leonie suddenly waved her hand and slapped Charlotte's face. Charlotte's upper body leaned back slightly and reached out to grab Leonie's wrist. "You're like a wild tigress. How can you hit me? You're shameless. You're dirty. I'm going to hit you. Let me go." Leonie struggled for a while, but she couldn't break free from Charlotte's hand. Charlotte said, "I want you to be my assistant because I want you to learn some skills from me." Leonie was stunned for a moment. Charlotte let go of Leonie's hand. "I won't stay here for too long. I'm going to find the answer I want. You can learn as much as you can during the time I stay in this village." After a pause, he said with a smile, "As for washing clothes, I'm joking with you. I only have this set of borrowed clothes. If I give it to you to wash, won't I be naked?" Leonie burst into laughter. Charlotte said with a smile, "Isn't that right? Smile. It's not good to keep a straight face. Although our living environment is extremely bad, we have to be optimistic. Only when we are optimistic can we hold on to the hope in our hearts. Believe me, all of this will pass." Although he said these words to enlighten others, Charlotte's heart was filled with bitterness. He was forced to leave his wife and children, leave the earth where he was born and raised, and come to this strange and dangerous world. Everything had to start from scratch. How could he be happy? By saying these words, he was actually enlightening himself, forcing himself not to miss his wife and children, as well as his relatives and friends on earth. "You speak in a special way." The way Leonie looked at Charlotte changed a little. "You must have been educated, right?" "I don't know. I've forgotten everything. That's why I'm looking for the answer." Charlotte looked at the sky outside the window. At this moment, he couldn't help but wonder where his hometown was. "When are you going to leave?" "I don't know. I think it's probably when I'm ready." "All right, let's stop talking and get to work." Charlotte walked toward the pile of scrap metal. His eyes had already locked onto a pair of Blue Moon People's combat boots. Until now, he didn't have a pair of shoes that belonged to him. It would be great if he could fix a pair of Blue Moon People's combat boots. Taking out the pair of Blue Moon People's combat boots, Charlotte realized that there were quite a number of auxiliary devices pressed under the boots. The auxiliary devices looked very complete, but there were some parts that were broken. However, using them to make a complete pair of combat boots was not a problem. This discovery made him very happy, and he immediately started fiddling with them. Leonie said, "I've always been curious. How did you fix Black Tiger's combat boots? I saw you pry off a small part, but you don't even have the equipment to test it. How do you know it's broken?" "I observed it with my eyes," Charlotte said. "One of the pins of the electronic part was broken. The mark was very obvious, but you guys just didn't notice it." "That works. Now let me give you your first lesson. Without the equipment to test it or to process the parts, the only way to fix the equipment you want is to observe it with your eyes. If you find it broken, you can just replace it with a good one," Charlotte said. "That's simple? That's simple. Huh." Leonie laughed happily. "What you said makes so much sense. I feel like I've learned a new skill." "Thank you, Teacher Xia." Charlotte smiled. He accepted this teacher calmly. Coming to this world to be a teacher, to be a seed that could revive human civilization, was not a bad thing. Charlotte used the tools to dismantle the Blue Moon People's combat boots. Leonie acted as Charlotte's assistant, giving him whatever he wanted. As Charlotte repaired the Blue Moon People's combat boots, he explained the relevant knowledge to Lee and I. In half an hour, not only did Charlotte fix a pair of Blue Moon People's combat boots for himself, he also found a second pair of combat boots from the pile of scrap and instructed Lee and I to fix it herself. Huh. Lee and I wore the combat boots she repaired and was very excited. I finally have a pair of combat boots that belongs to me, and I fixed them myself. Charlotte's gaze fell on the pile of scrap again. A piece of metal that looked like a breastplate entered his sight. For some reason, he thought of Kasha Ruiz's silver armor. In Sky City, he wore that silver armor, but now it was gone. The piece of silver metal lying in the pile of scrap was very similar to the breastplate of the armor. It evoked some of his imagination. "Chief, what did you take that piece of silver metal from?" Charlotte asked after looking at it for a few seconds. Lee and I glanced at it and said, "That's the Blue Moon People's armor. They still wear armor to hunt?" Of course, it's not that we don't resist. There are rebel armies made up of human warriors in other places. Well, there's one in Area 51. Its leader is Nana, a very brave woman. Lee and I smiled. She's my idol. If she summons me, I won't hesitate to join her army. Nana. Charlotte remembered the name. He asked, "Can you tell me how the Blue Moon people hunt and how they eat people as food?" Lee and I seemed to be lost in some kind of memory. Her expression was a little painful. They drive their aircraft down from the Blue Moon and then go around catching people. If they catch someone, they put a device over that person's head. They activate the device, and it only takes a few minutes for the person to become a dry corpse. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. Do they have bodies? Lee and I was stunned for a moment. Of course they have bodies. Were they without bodies? Charlotte let out a sigh of relief. Not all the Blue Moon people were like Isatab and Kasha Ruiz. Both of them had taken the mysterious mineral, and that mysterious mineral was not something everyone could get. This gave him a glimmer of hope. If every Blue Moon person was in existence like Isatabu and Kasha Ruiz, then there would be no hope left for this world. They use armor to protect their bodies. Our bullets can't penetrate them at all. Only cannons and trap bombs can kill them. There's another way, and that is to use melee weapons to fight them at close range and kill them. There must be a lot of casualties in that kind of battle, right? Lee and I smiled bitterly. There must be a lot of casualties, but if we don't fight, we will be eaten sooner or later. We have no choice. After a pause, she said, "It's been thousands of years, and it's a kind of endless suffering. However, the battles have also given us valuable experience. Picking up trash at the garbage dump is one of them. The Blue Moon people won't leave their trash on the Blue Moon. Every evening, there will be a garbage transport ship coming to the Hope Star to dump their trash. We find useful materials from the trash, then modify them into weapons to fight the Blue Moon people." Charlotte's heart ached. Picking up trash from the enemy's trash, modifying the trash into weapons, and then fighting the enemy. This was the living situation of the humans here. This was indeed an endless sea of suffering. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, a strange chirping sound came from the sky. Charlotte subconsciously raised his head and subconsciously looked at his X-ray vision. However, it was this time that his vision suddenly penetrated the roof and went straight to the sky. In the dim sky, a huge spaceship was slowly descending. Charlotte's heart was filled with surprise and confusion. What's going on? I thought I couldn't use my X-ray vision. Why did it suddenly return to normal? Is this related to the Blue Moon? Teacher Xia, the garbage transport ship is here. Let's hurry. If we're late, don't go to the village. All the good stuff has been picked up, Lee and I said. Charlotte retracted his gaze from the roof and naturally looked at Lee and I. In just a second, he hurriedly turned around. Okay, I'll go with you to the garbage dump. Follow me. Lee and I walked out the door. Charlotte could not help but smile bitterly. Her chest is really small. Lee and I did not hear this sentence. Chapter 13:21. The warriors of Peace Village had gathered. There were 23 warriors in total, but only 10 of them had guns. The rest of them were armed with cold weapons made of metal parts. Some of them had machetes with long handles, some had spiked maces, and some even had big hammers. The soldiers wielding cold weapons were all big and strong men. Big men with big weapons. The image of these village warriors was particularly rough. Black Tiger, who was leading the team, saw the boots on Charlotte and Lene's feet. He was only wearing one boot, and he was both envious and embarrassed. "Charlotte, when can you fix my other boot?" Charlotte did not seem to hear what he said. He looked at the giant spaceship that was descending from the north of the forest, and his heart was in shock. This was the first time he had seen a spaceship with his own eyes. He could not help but imagine what it would be like if Rema Group could build such a spaceship that could easily shuttle between the solar system or even the entire Milky Way galaxy to mine rare ores for China. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The buzzing sound came from the sky again. This time, Charlotte finally realized that it was not the giant spaceship that was making the buzzing sound, but the sky itself. The sky did have sounds. The sound of wind, thunder, and lightning were all sounds of the sky. To put it more scientifically, it was the sound produced by the movement of the atmosphere. But no matter how the atmosphere moved, how could it make such a strange buzzing sound? Just as the buzzing sound came for the second time, Charlotte suddenly realized that the branding energy in his body had entered a dormant state again, and the ability of his eyes to see through things had suddenly disappeared. When the buzzing sound came for the second time, it was like he had turned from Superman to a normal person. This buzzing sound, Charlotte suddenly thought of something. Back in Incheon, Korea, in the base of Audiobook, my eyes could not see through things and my ability was greatly limited. That was because of the energy bar. It created a special energy field, and in that energy field, my ability was greatly limited. Audiobook's small energy field was already so powerful, let alone the blue moon in the sky. It was the base of the blue moon people. The blue moon people turned this planet into a hunting ground. So how could they not restrict this planet? When the trash transport ship came in, the energy field was shut down, and my ability returned to normal. When the trash transport ship came in, the energy field was activated, and my ability disappeared. So, there must be an energy field in the sky. An energy field that covers the entire planet. This place is like a cage. Charlotte, when Black Tiger saw that Xia Lei was looking at the sky and ignoring him, he was immediately unhappy, and his face turned ugly. "I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me?" Xia Lei retracted his gaze from the sky. He looked at Black Tiger and grinned. "Captain Black Tiger, what did you just say?" Just now, when he was repairing the rags with Leonai, he asked her some information about this village and its people in a roundabout way. He learned from Leonai that Black Tiger was the leader of the armed forces in this village. On the surface, he was very polite to Leonai, but he did not take her, the village chief, seriously. Black Tiger frowned. "I was just asking when you could fix my other combat boot." "Oh, so that's what you're talking about. Let's talk about it when I have time," said Charlotte. "You have the time to repair the boots for yourself and the village chief, but you don't have the time to repair mine." Black Tiger's heart was filled with anger, and he looked like he would explode at any moment. Charlotte smiled. "Captain Black Tiger, don't be anxious. Even if you want to repair it, you need to have the parts. Let's go to the junkyard to find some spare parts. I'll help you fix them when I have them." Black Tiger's expression softened. "That's more like it." The transport ship in the sky had already disappeared. "We should head out now. If we delay any longer, all the good stuff will be snatched away by others," Big Bear urged. "Let's go," Black Tiger ordered. A large group of village warriors crossed the border between the village and the forest and entered the forest. Charlotte and Lee and I walked together. When he entered the forest, he asked in a low voice, "Chief, are we going to walk like this? I estimate that the distance is at least dozens of kilometers. If it doesn't work, I'm afraid we'll have to walk for a whole night." Lee and I said, "We have horses. They're hidden in the forest." She smiled. "Otherwise, how do you think we can go to such a far place and bring back so many things? Riding horses?" On one side, there was a spaceship, and on the other side, there were warriors riding horses. For some reason, Charlotte had a very absurd feeling in his heart. For him, everything in front of him was like a dream that he would never wake up from. There were horses in Peace Village. The stable where the horses were kept was in the forest, not far from Peace Village. Charlotte walked with the team for 10 minutes and saw the stable of Peace Village, as well as the war horses that were kept in the stable. The woman who guarded the stable was a young black girl. The black girl had thick lips and big eyes. Her face had the sense of a black woman, which was different from the face of an Asian woman. But she still looked delicate and beautiful. She was wearing a tight black singlet and was about 9 meters tall. Such a height was almost the height of a giant for a woman. But even with such a height, her body was not thin at all. The two big breasts on her chest had reached an amazing level, giving people a feeling that they were about to come out. Lee and I stood in front of her. If Leonie's chest was compared to a sweet orange, then her chest was like a honey pomelo. The black girl was wearing a pair of baggy trousers. Her pair of long legs and buttocks were full of cloth, as if the cloth would burst at any time. She was wearing an armed belt around her waist. There was a pistol and a knife on the belt. These two weapons added a little wildness to her. Coupled with her cold expression, people did not dare to approach her easily. This black girl made Charlotte's eyes light up because she reminded him of a black girl on Earth, Rihanna. Her face was very similar to Rihanna's. "Hi, Ramona. How have you been these days?" Lee and I hugged the black woman affectionately. So her name was Ramona. Even their names were similar. Ramona said, "It's still the same. Every day, I hope that the month will pass quickly and someone will replace me. Facing these horses every day, I'm about to die from their stench. Soon, in a few more days. I've arranged everything." Lee and I said, "You guys stop chatting. Let's go." Black Tiger said impatiently. Lee and I patted Ramona's shoulder. "We'll talk when we get back. Go get the horses. We should be on our way." Ramona threw the key to the stable to Black Tiger. "Go get them yourself. I'm not your groom." Black Tiger's mouth moved slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. He brought some people to get the horses. Ramona looked at Charlotte. "Who are you? I've never seen you before. Are you new? Do you know how to fight?" Before Charlotte could speak, Lee and I said, "He's called Charlotte. He's new. Do you see these boots on my feet? He's the one who taught me how to fix them." Ramona's eyes were filled with surprise. "You're a mechanic?" "He's forgotten everything, but he knows how to fix the Blue Moon people's equipment," Lee and I said. Ramona said, "Is that true?" Charlotte nodded. "It's true. How much longer are you guys going to chat? If you don't want to go, we'll go ourselves." Black Tiger urged unhappily. Lee and I and Ramona then went to the stable to get their own horses. Charlotte wanted to follow, but he saw that there were only 2 horses left in the stable. Clearly, there was no place for him. Big Bear said gloatingly, "Now, don't you have your horse? You could just run with it later. In any case, you're wearing the Blue Moon people's boots, so you can run very fast." Charlotte only smiled and did not say anything. Actually, if Black Tiger and these people had provoked him like this on Earth, according to his temper, Black Tiger and these people would have lost a layer of skin even if they did not die. However, this was the new world, and he had many things to consider, so he would not argue with these people over small things. If he could bear it, then he would. If he couldn't bear it, then he would deal with it. This was his mentality. Since Charlotte ignored him, Big Bear lost interest in mocking Charlotte. He moved closer to Black Tiger and whispered, "Captain, this guy knows how to fix the Blue Moon people's equipment. He's a threat to you." "Huh?" Black Tiger frowned. Big Bear said, "Think about it. This guy is so good-looking, and his skin is white and soft. He even knows how to fix the Blue Moon people's equipment. He just arrived, and Lee and I already brought him to her house. What chance do you have in the future?" Black Tiger's eyes turned cold. "What do you have in mind?" Big Bear covered his mouth with his hand and whispered something into Black Tiger's ear. Black Tiger's lips curled into a cold smile. Xiaolei had been observing their conversation from the corner of his eye. Although he could not use his eyes now, his lip-reading skills had long been perfected, not to mention that the two of them were speaking Chinese, the language he was most familiar with. However, he couldn't decipher what Big Bear said when he covered his mouth with his hand. However, from what the two of them said before and their sinister expressions after the secret conversation, he could guess that the two of them must have a plan that they couldn't see. Charlotte sighed softly. If this is the world 1,000 years later, why are humans still so selfish and competitive? Those two guys better not provoke me, and don't do anything to hurt me. Otherwise, I will really kill you. He no longer felt anything about killing. If he had to kill someone, then he would do it without any hesitation. Leonai and Ramona rode out on their horses. Kid, run with them. You better hold on, or you will become the food of the blue dragon if you get lost in the forest. Big Bear's face was full of gloating and sarcastic smile. What is a blue dragon? It was the first time Charlotte heard of it. He doesn't even know what a blue dragon is. A warrior said, "Ha ha." Everyone laughed. Charlotte shrugged his shoulders. Is it funny? Ignore them and get on my horse. Leonai stretched out a hand to Charlotte. Charlotte hesitated. Or you will run over. Leonai stared at Charlotte. Charlotte grabbed Leonie's hand and jumped on the horse. Go. Leonai clamped the horse's belly with her legs, and the horse galloped forward. There was no road in the forest. It was a road formed naturally by the people of Peace Village after a long time of walking. It was twisted and full of potholes. Charlotte sat behind Leonai. He wanted to put his hands around Leonie's waist, but in the end, he still protected the saddle. In the new world, he must be careful in dealing with relationships between men and women. This was the first requirement that Charlotte set for himself. Chapter 13:22. An hour later, Charlotte followed the team from the village of Peace to the top of a mountain. At the foot of the mountain was a dividing line. Behind the mountain was a dense forest, and in front of the mountain was a scorched land. As far as the eye could see, on the scorched land, there was a mountain of metal garbage. The blue moon on the mountain in the sky reflected the light of the star and sprinkled it on the cold metal debris, giving off a cold blue light. A huge transport spacecraft hovered over the garbage pile, constantly dumping the metal garbage in the fuselage, making a deafening noise. Is that place the garbage dump? Charlotte asked. Yes, that is the Blue Moon People's garbage dump, where we are going. But this is not the only garbage dump of the Blue Moon People. There are many other places on this planet, Leonai said. Why do the Blue Moon People build so many garbage dumps? Charlotte was very curious and seemed to smell something unusual. Leonai shook her head. I don't know about this. No one has ever been able to enter the Blue Moon. That place is a forbidden zone for humans. Rumble. Huge pieces of metal trash fell from the sky and smashed onto the ground, causing a tremor like a bomb explosion. Charlotte looked as far as he could. Although his eyes could not be compared to the state where he could use the power of the branding, his body was still a body that had advanced in evolution. His vision and ability to see in the dark were still far beyond that of a normal person. Therefore, even at a distance of more than 2 kilometers, he could still clearly see the open hatch of the transport spacecraft and the pieces of metal garbage that fell from the hatch. It was also at this time that he saw some box-shaped metal garbage fall from the hatch and then fall into the garbage dump. At this time, a group of people suddenly rushed out from the side of the mountain and sprinted towards the place where the spacecraft dumped the garbage. Ramona looked with the optical telescope and said, "It's the people of the Hard Rock tribe, led by Huang Zhan. Huang Zhan and the others must have obtained some information, otherwise they would not take such a big risk and rush over now," Black Tiger said. Could it be the battlefield garbage? Big Bear's eyes lit up. If it is, maybe we can find guns or even equipment from the Blue Moon People. Village Chief, what are we waiting for? Let's rush over. If we're too late, we won't get anything. That's right, Village Chief, what are we waiting for? Let's charge. Someone echoed. Chief, it's not a good thing for us if we let the Hardstone tribe get more equipment. Huang Zhan has asked us to join their tribe more than once, someone said. Don't panic. Calm down. Although equipment is important, our lives are more valuable. If we die, who will protect our village? Leonai said. Really? Isn't he a little too timid? That's just an unmanned transport ship, Big Bear muttered. Although he didn't mention names, the cowardly person he was referring to was obviously Leonai. Leonai frowned, but didn't say anything. Peace Village was built by her parents. She had to consider not only the immediate interests, but also the safety of the villagers. She didn't consider herself at all, but there were still people who misunderstood her. Her heart was actually very bitter, and she had no one to talk to. Charlotte was sitting behind Leonai. He couldn't see her face or her eyes, but he could feel the grievance and sadness in her heart. He wanted to comfort her, but in the end, he didn't say it. He had set a standard for himself when it came to relationships between men and women, and he had to carry it out. It's the battlefield garbage. Ramona, who was observing with a telescope, said excitedly, "I saw that kind of box. What are we waiting for? Charge!" Big Bear shouted excitedly. The warriors of Peace Village were about to charge. "Wait," Leonai shouted. "If the Blue Moon people follow us this time, we'll all die." "Village Chief, this is a garbage dump. The Blue Moon people who hunt for food usually won't come here. Listen to me, let's charge," Big Bear said. Leonai was hesitant. Ramona said, "The people of the Heartstone tribe have arrived. I saw they got a box." "Forget it. If she doesn't want to go, let's go," Black Tiger said. Then he clamped the horse's belly and urged it to charge down the hill. A large group of Peace Village's warriors followed suit. Big Bear looked back at Leonai, his face full of contempt and dissatisfaction. Leonai bit her lips. "Let's go too," Ramona said. "Leonai, don't take it to heart. Those guys are a group of barbarians who don't know manners. Don't forget that you can read." Leonai smiled bitterly. "What's the use of that? Maybe they are right. I'm such a coward, and I'm not suitable to be the village chief. Black Tiger is the most suitable person." "Don't say that. If Black Tiger becomes the village chief, I will leave here," Ramona said. Leonai said, "Let's go. Otherwise, those guys will think that we are cowards." "Wait." Charlotte suddenly grabbed Leonie's hand, not letting her pull the reins. Leonai looked back at Charlotte. "What are you doing?" Ramona curled up the corner of her mouth. "He is a coward." Charlotte didn't care. He said lightly, "There is no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. I have a feeling that this is not a good opportunity to get equipment. It may be a trap." "What do you know?" Ramona's mouth showed a trace of disdain. "You just came here. You don't understand this place at all. You don't know anything." Leonai said, "If you are a coward, you can get off the horse. I won't blame you. You are a technician. It is normal for you to be afraid of fighting." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "Get off the horse," Leonai urged. Charlotte jumped off the horse. "Coward." Ramona glanced at Xiaolei. Her long legs clamped on the horse's abdomen, and the horse under her rushed out. Leonai followed closely behind Ramona. The two women also rushed to the center of the junkyard. "Am I a coward?" Hee. Charlotte couldn't help but smile bitterly. If the two women knew how many people had died at his hands and what he had done, would they still think that he was a coward? When the two women rode away on their horses, Xiaolei also ran down the hill. The combat boots of the Blue Moon people were really good stuff. When he ran, he could feel the gravity of the earth. They were very fast and very energy efficient. Running with these combat boots gave him the feeling that he had mastered the ultimate Qigong. The infantry combat boots of the Blue Moon people are already so advanced. What kind of weapons do the Blue Moon people have? What is the interior of the Blue Moon people like? As he ran, Charlotte looked up at the blue moon hanging in the night sky. He made a decision in his heart. He had to go up and take a look. In just a few minutes, Xiaolei ran down the hill from the hillside. Beep, beep, beep. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the combat boots on his feet. It sounded like some kind of equipment malfunction warning. Charlotte stopped abruptly and checked the combat boots on his feet. He quickly found two red lights at the bottom of the combat boots. Beside the red lights, there was also a text notification. The text displayed was not in Chinese or English, but in the language of the Blue Moon people. Because of Kasha Ruiz and Isatab, Charlotte had encountered this language before, so he could read it. The content of the text was, "Energy is about to run out. F***CK. Charlotte couldn't help but curse. However, this was normal. After all, The combat boots on his feet were trash that the Blue Moon people had thrown away. If the energy bar in the combat boots had a lot of energy stored, the Blue Moon people would definitely take it out and not leave it for the humans on this planet. What kind of energy is used in the combat boots? It would be great if I could replenish it. Charlotte thought about this as he approached the center of the junkyard. He slowed down. One reason was to conserve the combat boots energy, and the other was to observe the environment. The closer he got to the center of the junkyard, the more uneasy Charlotte felt. This was the intuition of a battle-hardened veteran. It was the experience of soaking in blood. He trusted his intuition because it had never been wrong. After moving forward for a while, Charlotte saw the warriors of Peace Village. They were carefully approaching a pile of metal trash. Leonai and Ramona had already met up with the warriors of Peace Village. However, they did not participate in the operation directly. Instead, they were guarding the horses in a relatively hidden place at the back. On another huge pile of metal trash stood a group of armed men. They were the people of the Hard Rock tribe. They had a good harvest and had already picked up a few square boxes. Charlotte carefully observed them. Those square boxes were not real metal boxes. Instead, they were fences made of iron bars, which were then used to form a box. The boxes were filled with trash, but the trash was crumpled into a ball, so it was impossible to tell what kind of trash it was. The armed men of the Hard Rock tribe were obviously more than the people of Peace Village. They were also better equipped. Almost everyone had a gun, while more than half of the people of Peace Village used cold weapons. If the two sides were to fight, the people of Peace Village would not be enough. Charlotte's gaze, once again, moved to the pile of trash that the people of Peace Village were about to reach. There was a square box with iron bars in the middle of the pile. From the current position and attention of the people of Peace Village, it was obvious that their target was that box. The people of the Hard Rock tribe did not seem to notice the people of Peace Village. They were busy moving the boxes. Charlotte raised his head. Above him was the transport ship of the Blue Moon people. It was very big, like a moving fortress in the sky. It was silver in color and looked like it was made of mystic gold X. However, he had a feeling that if it was mystic gold X, the Blue Moon people's mystic gold X would definitely be more advanced than the mystic gold X made by the Rema group. Such a big spaceship without anyone piloting it. Is this real? Charlotte thought of something that Big Bear had said before. He could not believe it. Whoosh, whoosh. At this very critical moment, a warhorse that Leonai and Ramona were guarding suddenly made a sound. Oh no! Charlotte suddenly screamed his heart. He had already realized what was going to happen. As expected, the sound of the warhorse had attracted the attention of the people of the Hard Rock tribe. Who's over there? One of the armed men of the Hard Rock tribe shouted. Come out! Is it the people of Peace Village? A tall and burly middle-aged man stood out. He looked in the direction where Leonai and Ramona were hiding and shouted angrily, Leonai, come out! Chapter 1323. Leonai and Ramona did not move. They looked a little nervous. Bang, bang, bang. A tall and burly man raised his assault rifle and fired 3 shots in Leonai and Ramona's direction. The bullets hit a huge piece of metal and created 3 sparks. This man was the chief of the Heartstone tribe, Huang Zhan. He stood on a piece of metal, and his hard muscles formed a rather exaggerated line. He looked like an Iron Man. I asked you to join us, but you refused. Now, you come to our territory to steal things. Huang Zhan's voice was full of anger. Today, I will give you the best chance. Either you come back with me and be my woman, or I will kill you. Then I will bring my men to capture the people in your village and sell them to a middleman. There was no point in continuing to hide. Leonai braced herself and walked out of her hiding place. Ramona also followed Leonai out. She was holding a pistol in her hand. It looked very shabby, and people doubted its accuracy. Leonai said loudly, "This garbage dump does not belong to the Heartstone tribe. It belongs to everyone. Why do you have to say that it belongs to you? We don't want to cause trouble. We just want to take something back. If I say it belongs to us, then it belongs to us." Huang Zhan sneered. He looked at Leonai and Ramona with eyes full of lust. "How about this? You two come with me, and I will let your people go. Otherwise, I will kill them all. You are shameless." Then I cannot help but curse. Ramona pointed her gun at Huang Zhan, but she did not have the courage to shoot. She was very clear about the performance of her gun. If she fired, the bullet would most likely not hit Huang Zhan. However, it was certain that many people would die. The warriors of Peace Village ended their stealth and revealed themselves. Those with guns faced each other, and those with cold weapons were also ready to charge and fight. The Blue Moon People's transport ship had not left yet, but the people who picked up the garbage were already ready to fight at any time. This was the deep-rooted inferiority of humans. The humans on this planet were already at the brink of extinction, but they still thought of their own interests. For their own interests, they would do anything. While the two sides were confronting each other, Charlotte had already left his hiding place and was stealthily moving in a certain direction. The people of the Heartstone tribe also came on horses, so they naturally left people to guard the horses. Charlotte's target was the hiding place of the Heartstone tribe's horses. He could not kill dozens of armed men of the Heartstone tribe without any weapons, but it was not a problem to deal with 1 or 2 men guarding the horses. The man guarding the horses must have a gun on him. That's what he wants. Although he couldn't use his X-ray vision, Charlotte's ears were still very sensitive. Soon, he heard some faint sounds. It was the breathing of the horses. A human's breathing was almost inaudible, but their breathing was several times louder than a human's, and the sneezing sound was even more obvious. After locking onto the position, Charlotte sped up his stealth. "Black Tiger," Huang Zhan sneered. "I thought you were someone, but you're actually willing to sell your life for a woman, and this woman doesn't even sleep with you. What do you think you're after?" Black Tiger didn't say anything, but his eyes were cold. Huang Zhan's sarcasm had obviously hit his heart. "Follow me. Let's build our power together, and even our kingdom." Huang Zhan's voice was full of temptation. "Don't you want beautiful women? I can give you as many as you want." Black Tiger still didn't say anything. Bear, who was standing next to Black Tiger, said, "Captain, shut up, don't talk." Black Tiger glared at Bear. Big Bear then shut his mouth. Huang Zhan said, "Black Tiger, I'll give you 2 choices tonight. The first choice, you can go back with your people. You can take the box with you, but you have to leave the 2 women. The second choice, you can protect the 2 women, but you will all die here." Black Tiger was still silent and didn't respond. Huang Zhan sneered. "Also, let me add, if you make the first choice, it means you're with me, and I'll take over Peace Village with my people. But don't worry, I won't separate you and your people. You're still the leader of your people." Black Tiger shifted his gaze to look at Li Ni and Ramona behind him. Although he didn't say anything, there was a hint of hesitation in his eyes. At this time, Huang Zhan suddenly whistled. Immediately, more than 20 armed men emerged from the nearby garbage dumps. Even the garbage dumps that the warriors of Peace Village were going to have armed men. Charlotte's intuition was confirmed again. This was not an opportunity, but a trap. As soon as the armed men of the Heartstone tribe appeared, the warriors of Peace Village were immediately surrounded. Now, as long as Huang Zhan gave the order, they would become corpses, let alone protect Li Ni and Ramona. "Captain," Bear panicked and said nervously, "we don't need to protect the 2 women. You like the village chief, but she has never liked you. Why you have to do this?" "Shut up." Black Tiger was angry. Bang! A gunshot sounded. A bullet flew out from Huang Zhan's rifle and hit the ground in front of Black Tiger. If the bullet had moved a little further, there would have been a bloody hole in Black Tiger's thigh. Huang Zhan said fiercely, "I don't have that much time for you to think. I will count to 3. If you still don't make a choice after 3, I will tacitly agree that you choose the second one. I will chop you up and feed you to the blue dragon." After a pause, he began to count. 1. Clatter. All the armed men of the Heartstone tribe raised their guns and aimed at the people of Peace Village in the encirclement. 2. Huang Zhan's voice was filled with murderous intent. Black Tiger suddenly shouted, "Don't shoot. Let's go." The warriors of Peace Village put down their guns and the cold weapons in their hands. No one was willing to exchange their lives for the chance of other survival, even if the person they needed to protect was the village chief who was always considerate of them. Leanie's tears rolled down from her eyes. Ramona shouted angrily, "Black Tiger, you bastards! Have you forgotten who saved you and who took you in when you were seriously injured and on the verge of death? You're an ungrateful beast." "Shut up," Black Tiger said angrily. "I've already paid back what I owed her. I don't want to die. I don't want to live like this. Take care of yourselves. I quit. Bear, bring some people to take that box. Let's go." Bear brought 3 people to drag the box down from the garbage pile, and some people went to the place where Lee and I and Ramona were hiding to get the war horses. During the whole process, none of the warriors of Peace Village dared to look at Leanie's eyes. The warriors of Peace Village dragged the box and left. Leanie's tears seemed to have dried up. The warriors she once regarded as her brothers and sisters had abandoned her. Her heart was broken at this moment, and she did not want to look at them again. "Lee and I," Huang Zhan said with a smile, "I have said that you will become my woman sooner or later. As long as you promise me, I will not mistreat you." His eyes moved to Ramona again, and he did not hide the desire in his heart. "Ramona, I have wanted to have sex with you for a long time. This time you can't run away. Don't worry, I will enter your body very gently. I will not be rough." "Shut up," Ramona said angrily. "I will not let you touch me, even if I die." "Ha ha," Huang Zhan laughed. "Do you think I will let you go if you die? Let me tell you, even if you die, I will still play with you. You are a scum." Ramona roared angrily and was ready to shoot. Lee and I suddenly pressed Ramona's hand and then said loudly, "Huang Zhan, I will go with you. You let Ramona go." Ramona said anxiously, "What are you doing? Let me go. Do you think I am the same as them? I will not give up on you." "Calm down. This is not a matter of giving up, but—" Lee and I lowered her voice. "There is no need for us to die together. Go back, find Charlotte, and take him away. He is not familiar with the terrain. He is timid, and he does not know how to fight. He needs your protection. You're still thinking about others at a time like this. When are you going to think about yourself? You idiot." Ramona's eyes were filled with tears. "Listen to me. Just treat these as my last words. There is no need for you to die with me. Quickly go." Lee and I pushed Ramona. Ramona was pushed 2 steps back by Lee and I, but she did not leave. "You want to leave?" Huang Zhan laughed coldly. "Why don't you ask if I agree? Is what I said not clear enough? I want both of you, not one of you. I want to hug you to sleep. F asterisk asterisk K this, and F asterisk asterisk K that. How great would that be? If you want me to let one of you go, I will feel terrible." "Ha ha." The armed men of the Hard Rock tribe burst into laughter. "Brothers, I will let you have a good time after I'm done," Huang Zhan said. The armed men of the Hard Rock tribe roared excitedly again. "Go and capture them." Huang Zhan could not wait any longer. A few armed men of the Hard Rock tribe followed and surrounded Li Ni and Ramona. They raised the rifles in their hands, vigilantly watching Li Ni and Ramona's every move. "Fight them to the death." Ramona suddenly waved her hand and aimed at an armed man of the Hard Rock tribe who was approaching her. However, before she could pull the trigger and fire a shot, a sniper rifle bullet flew from the side and hit her pistol. There was a crisp sound of metal colliding, and the very old pistol was dismembered in her hand, leaving only the gun handle in her hand. Ramona was so scared that her face turned pale. "Dude, you actually brought a sniper." Lee and I finally understood that they were not discovered because of the sound of the war horses. It was all a trap from the beginning. Lee and I suddenly thought of Charlotte, the man who saw the truth from the beginning. Where is he now? How could he make such an accurate prediction without any evidence? Who was he? Where did he come from? The encirclement shrank again. A few armed men of the Hard Rock tribe revealed ferocious and wretched smiles. They even began to imagine the wonderful scene of pressing these 2 beauties under their bodies and playing with them to death. Lee and I suddenly raised her gun. She knew very well that this was a suicidal counterattack, but she had no other choice. Bang! Another gunshot rang out. The assault rifle in Li Ni's hand was hit, and sparks immediately burst from the barrel. The barrel was actually bent by the sniper rifle bullet. "Ha ha!" Huang Zhan laughed and said, I told you, neither of you can escape. Open your legs and wait to enjoy my big bird. As soon as Huang Zhan finished speaking, bang, there was a sudden gunshot from another direction. Chapter 1324. A bullet flew past Huang Zhan's face, and he could even feel the scorching energy carried by the bullet. He instinctively squatted down to avoid the second bullet that might fly over. At that moment, cold sweat broke out on his back. However, the second bullet did not fly over. Huang Zhan stood up and looked in the direction where the bullet had come from. That was where the Heartstone tribe hid their horses. He seemed to realize something and shouted, Ayu, what the hell are you doing? Come out. No one responded to the place where the horses were hidden. Huang Zhan gave a tribal armed man a look, and the man followed him in that direction. The man said as he walked, Ew, are you out of your King mind? How dare you shoot in the head? Do you want to die? Still, no one responded. The man walked to the place where the horses were hidden and saw the black boy was lying on the ground with a metal fragment that looked like an axe embedded in his head. It was a fatal sneak attack, and Ayu's head had almost been split open. Ayu is dead. The people who came to check shouted in panic, There's an enemy attack. Damn it. Huang Zhan roared angrily. How dare they declare war on the Heartstone tribe here? Find them and get rid of them. Suddenly, someone shouted, Our sniper has been killed. A headshot. Huang Zhan was stunned for a moment before he suddenly understood. The bullet just now was not meant to kill him, but the sniper behind him. On the battlefield, snipers were abominable existences. Snipers were like ghosts lurking in hidden corners, looking for targets and then shooting them. Snipers were also the people their opponents wanted to kill the most, because the existence of a sniper was equivalent to a guillotine hanging on the neck, which could fall at any time. However, it was easier said than done to kill a ghost on the battlefield. The sniper of the Heartstone tribe was an extremely experienced veteran with excellent marksmanship. This could be seen from the 2 shots he had fired at Ramona's pistol and Li Ni's rifle. He was the kind of sharpshooter who would hit wherever he pointed, and the error would not be more than a few centimeters. This sharpshooter was also a meritorious figure who had helped the Heartstone tribe to victory time and time again. He had a very important position in the Heartstone tribe. However, such an experienced marksman with amazing marksmanship was inexplicably shot in the head. Capture those 2 women. They're here for them. Huang Zhan wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. His reaction was extremely fast. As he spoke, he had already jumped down from a high place to avoid becoming the mysterious gunman's next target. The 4 gunmen surrounding Li Ni and Ramona pounced on them. Ramona kicked one of the armed men who tried to grab her. Her body was big, and her legs were powerful. With a kick, the armed man who was kicked by her was sent flying back a few steps before falling to the ground. She was like a wild horse, wild and hard to tame. However, Ni didn't have Ramona's combat power. With just one move, she was caught by one of the armed men. In the next second, the armed man went behind her. He held her neck with one hand and pointed a gun at her head with the other. If you dare to move again, I'll kill her. The armed man who was holding Li Ni threatened fiercely. Kneel! Ramona didn't dare to move recklessly. As soon as she stopped, one of the armed men pounced on her and punched her in the stomach. As she clutched her stomach, she was kicked in the back of her leg, and she fell to the ground. The armed man who had been kicked by Ramona got up from the ground. He raised his gun and smashed it down on Ramona's head. No! Li Ni screamed. The armed man didn't listen to Li Ni's words at all. His lips curled into a sinister smile as he exerted all his strength to smash Ramona's head open. Bang! A gunshot rang out. A bullet suddenly flew over and pierced into the right eye of the armed man who was about to smash Ramona's head open. In that instant, blood, eyeballs, and brain matter spurted out from his eye socket like a blooming flower. Plop! The armed man who was about to attack fell to the ground. It's that gunman again. He's on the left. He didn't finish his sentence because the gunman didn't give him a chance to continue. A bullet flew over and pierced into his right eye, piercing through his brain. One shot at a time, and every one of them was headshot from the right eye. This wasn't a coincidence. This was the mysterious gunman's way of demonstrating his power. Bang, bang, bang. The people from the Heartstone tribe fired in the direction of the gunshots. Bullets rained down like raindrops. One by one, the bullets hit the metal trash, causing sparks to fly. However, the mysterious gunman seemed to have disappeared into thin air. No one could find any trace of him. He had already killed a few people from the Heartstone tribe, but the people from the Heartstone tribe couldn't even pinpoint his exact location. This was the real ghost of the battlefield. Amidst the gunshots, Lee and I and Ramona looked at each other. Then, their gazes focused on the assault rifle that had fallen to the ground. "Kill those two women," Huang Zhan suddenly roared. The armed man who was holding Li and I hostage pointed his gun at Li and I and was about to shoot. However, just as he was about to make a move, a bullet suddenly flew over, grazed Li Ni's cheek, and fiercely pierced into his forehead. His forehead was only slightly exposed, but he was still shot in the head by the mysterious gunman. Li and I regained her freedom, but she could still stand there with a horrified expression on her face. The bullet had flown past her cheek. Even now, she could still feel the heat from the bullet. If the bullet had missed by even a centimeter, the one who would have been shot in the head would have been her instead of the armed man behind her. The gunman's marksmanship had reached such a terrifying level. Who was he? Before Lee and I could figure it out, Ramona rolled over, grabbed Lee Ni's leg, and pushed her to the ground. Ding, ding, ding. A few bullets hit the metal trash behind Lee and I, and sparks flew everywhere. "What are you doing? Do you want to die?" Ramona roared at Lee and I. Lee and I came back to her senses. She subconsciously asked, "Who was that person?" "I don't know who it was, but I'm sure it wasn't Black Tiger and the others," Ramona said. "Could it be him?" Lee and I suddenly thought of a person. When that person appeared in her mind, there was a glimmer of light in her eyes. "You mean Charlotte?" Ramona snorted coldly. "Don't joke around. That person is the best sharpshooter I've ever seen. I'm afraid only Liu Bai from the Resistance Army can compare to him. How could it be that coward Charlotte?" "But I think—" Lee and I wanted to say something, but stopped. Ding, ding, ding. Another string of bullets flew over, hitting the metal trash around them. "Don't think about that coward anymore. We have to get out of here." Ramona stuck out her butt and crawled towards an assault rifle that had fallen to the ground. A foot suddenly blocked in front of her. Ramona was startled, and when she looked up, she saw a very good-looking face. The mysterious gunman finally appeared. It was none other than Charlotte. Charlotte squatted in front of Ramona's head with a smile on his face. "It's very rude to call people cowards for no reason." "It's you?" Ramona couldn't believe it. Charlotte nodded. "Do you have any friends who came to save you?" Ramona was stunned for a moment, and suddenly burst out laughing. "The seam on your crotch is open." "Ah." Charlotte suddenly closed his legs. "She lied to you." Lee and I grabbed an assault rifle from the ground, and then crouched over to Charlotte's side. She looked at Xia Lei, her eyes filled with gratitude and something indescribable. "They're over there." An armed man from the Heartstone tribe suddenly exclaimed from the metal pile on the side. He seemed very excited. Xia Lei didn't even look at him as he turned around and fired a shot. Puff! The armed man who was excited because he found his target was shot in the head, and he fell head first into the metal pile. Lee and I and Ramona were stunned by this scene. The armed man who climbed up the metal trash pile had warned them. They had actually seen the armed man, and Lee and I was even ready to shoot him. Unexpectedly, Charlotte, who was facing them with his back to the armed man, didn't even look at him. He turned his hand and shot the armed man's head. He didn't look at anyone, didn't aim, but still managed to shoot his head. Such marksmanship, such confidence, even Liu Bai, who was known as the god of war in the Resistance Army, couldn't compare. "Who are you?" Lee and I finally came back to her senses. Charlotte shrugged with an innocent expression. "I don't know. I'm looking for my past." Ramona looked at Charlotte with a strange expression. There was only one word to describe her expression: disbelief. Charlotte said, "Now is not the time to discuss my past. We have to get out of here. These guns are too lousy. The accuracy of every shot is decreasing. Once we get surrounded by those guys, we'll be in danger." There were still dozens of gunmen in the Heartstone tribe. Once they broke through the middle and rushed over, even the most powerful sharpshooter would be killed. But for some reason, when they were by Xiaolei's side, neither Leonai nor Ramona felt the slightest bit worried or afraid. Charlotte turned around and sneaked toward a pile of metal. Leonai and Ramona didn't hesitate and followed Charlotte stealthily. Ramona also grabbed an assault rifle that had fallen to the ground. However, just as the three of them were about to retreat, Huang Zhan suddenly shouted, "There are too many enemies. Retreat." Then someone whistled for his warhorses. Hearing the call, the warhorses ran out of their hiding places and ran to their masters. The armed men of the Heartstone tribe jumped on their warhorses and fled the battlefield through the piles of metal waste. Charlotte didn't shoot the fleeing armed men of the Heartstone tribe. He knew that it was better not to chase a desperate enemy. "Coward!" Ramona spat a mouthful of saliva on the ground. "That guy must be afraid that you'll make him your target." Charlotte said, "I really wanted to kill him. To catch a thief, first catch the leader. However, your situation was more dangerous at that time. I had to shoot those who threatened you first. If the battle continued, I would definitely shoot that Huang Zhan. Huang Zhan is a very smart and cunning person. I'm not surprised that he ran away now," Leonai said. "What do we do now?" Now that they were safe, Ramona lost her target and felt a little lost. Leonai also fell silent. If she returned to Peace Village now, how would she face Black Tiger and the warriors of Peace Village? Charlotte walked in one direction. "Where are you going?" the two women asked in unison. Charlotte didn't look back. "I killed a sniper. He had a sniper rifle. I want it." What was the first sniper rifle like in the New World? He was full of anticipation. Chapter 1325. A cold corpse lay on top of the coal metal trash. The fatal bullet had pierced through his forehead, instantly killing his brain. There was no more blood flowing out of the hole. The blood and brain matter that had flowed out had solidified on the corpse's face. His eyes were empty, and even at the moment of his death, there was no sign of fear. This was because he had no time to be afraid of death. Charlotte's gaze fell on the sniper rifle beside the corpse. It was just a very old, ordinary light sniper rifle. Its structure was not complicated, and it was a far cry from the Rema Group's XL 2500 sniper rifle. This is a sniper rifle that the Resistance Army manufactured themselves. It's called the Avenger 1000. Ramona recognized it immediately. The number at the back represents its range. It's not very powerful, and it will be very difficult for it to penetrate the Blue Moon people's armor. However, it's a good gun for killing people. Its accuracy is very high. Charlotte's lips twitched. The effective range is only 1,000 meters, and it can't penetrate the Blue Moon people's armor. This kind of gun is too weak. You say that as if you know a lot about guns, Ramona said. But as soon as the words left her mouth, she regretted it. In her mind, the image of Xia Lei killing an armed man without even looking at him appeared in her mind. How could a person with such marksmanship not know how to use a gun? Charlotte did not mind. He picked up the Avenger 1000 and looked at it. Then he said, "Although it's a little lacking, it's better than nothing. After I take it back, I will modify this gun and make it more powerful. Perhaps I can use it to deal with the Blue Moon people in the future." "You know how to modify guns?" Lee and I looked at Charlotte with a strange expression. This man in front of her was becoming more and more unfathomable. "I'm not too sure. I've forgotten everything. But I have a feeling that I can fix the gun, just like how I believe I can fix the boots of the Blue Moon people." Xiao Lei had a smile on his face. Lee and I and Ramona couldn't help but look at each other. This wasn't the first time Charlotte said such words to them. They didn't feel anything special when they heard it before, but for some reason, they felt like kicking Charlotte when they heard it this time. "Teacher Xia, how long are you going to lie to us?" Lee and I pleaded. "Tell us, who exactly are you?" Charlotte answered without any hesitation. Lee and I couldn't help but glare at Charlotte. "I don't want her name. I want to know who you are. Where did you come from?" Charlotte shook his head. "I've told you. I've forgotten my past. I don't know anything except my name." Yep. Lee and I was furious. Charlotte didn't explain because he couldn't. It's fine if he doesn't want to say it, Ramona said. What should we do next? Should we go back to the village, or? Leanie's expression darkened. I don't know. Charlotte, why don't you make the decision? Should we go back to the village or somewhere else? Ramona looked at Charlotte, waiting for his decision. Charlotte thought for a moment, then said, Of course we're going back to the village. I know what you're worried about. You're worried about Black Tiger and the warriors in the village. But with me here, you don't have to be afraid of them. Leonai said, I know Black Tiger's character. He betrayed us, and he won't let anyone in the village know what happened here. The only thing he can do is kill us and keep everything that happened here secret. That's the only thing he can do, and he always does what's best for him. I believe he'll do the same. Once we go back, they'll point their guns at us. Maybe they've already set up an ambush on the way back. Ramona said, Then I'll kill them. Charlotte said, No. Leanie's voice was heard. Why? Charlotte frowned. They betrayed you and left you with the people of the Heartstone tribe. They must have known what would happen to you, but they still did it. You're always thinking about them, but at the most critical moment, they sold you out. They've treated you like this, and you still want to protect them? Leonai said, Not everyone deserves to die. Many of them didn't have a choice. This is a world without humanity. They want to live, and I don't blame them. You're too kind. All right, then you decide. If you want to go back, I'll go with you. If you want to leave. Charlotte was silent for a moment, then said, Let's split up. You two go, and I'll go alone. You're leaving? Where are you going? Leonai suddenly became nervous. Charlotte smiled bitterly. I don't know. I'll go wherever I go. Then we'll go with you. Leonai said. Charlotte shook his head. I have something to do. It'll be dangerous for you to follow me. You should go on your own. Will it be safe for us two women to go? Ramona was a little angry. Tell us what you're going to do. We won't be a burden to you. I'm also a warrior, and I can fight. Charlotte was silent. The problem he was going to solve was not something they could participate in. Charlotte couldn't find an excuse to refuse. Forget it. Let's go back to the village. Leonai suddenly changed her mind. I've thought it through. Running away is not a solution. Heihu accepted Huang Zhan's conditions. Huang Zhan would not let go of what happened tonight. He would definitely gather more people to attack Peace Village. Based on Black Tiger's character, he will definitely betray Peace Village. After a pause, she added, If someone has to die, why not him? A smile appeared on Charlotte's face. It's good that you've thought it through. It's good to be kind. Sometimes it's not good to be too kind, because your kindness will hurt more innocent people. Since you've changed your mind, let's go back. Okay. Leonai nodded. Wait. Ramona said, We almost died here because of these things. We have no reason not to take the spoils of war. Why don't we see what we have? I agree. What about you, Teacher Xia? Leonai looked at Charlotte. Leonai, you're usually very assertive. Why are you so indecisive tonight? Ramona said. Leanie's cheeks were slightly flushed. She glared at Ramona, but didn't say anything. The atmosphere inexplicably became a little awkward. Xiaolei turned around and walked towards a box. He was actually very curious about what was in the box. The box was not very heavy. Charlotte did not have to spend much effort to drag it down from the pile of metal trash. He used a metal rod to pry open the iron bars of the box and poured out the contents. The box was filled with tattered clothes, shoes, and some random things. It was obvious that these things were pulled from the bodies of dead people. Other than these things, there were some broken weapons and parts, and some ammunition. Charlotte said curiously, These things are really battlefield trash. But why would the people of Blue Moon have such trash? These boxes were obviously transported from Blue Moon and thrown away. Leonai looked at the bloodstained clothes. Her expression was very solemn. These are the remains of the Resistance soldiers. They might have been captured Resistance soldiers who were sent to Blue Moon and turned into food. The people of Blue Moon would not want their remains, so they would get the transport ship to dump them in the garbage dump. Actually, most of the weapons and equipment we picked up from the garbage dump are the remains of the Resistance soldiers. Only a very small portion of the Blue Moon's equipment is trash, and most of them are broken and not worth repairing. Charlotte raised his head to look at the blue moon hanging in the sky. The idea of entering Nanue to take a look became stronger in his heart. At this time, the first transport ship had already finished dumping the trash and was slowly rising into the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sound of the energy shield activating came from the depths of the sky again. It could be heard from far away. The power of the brand in Charlotte's body was awakened again. All the restricted abilities had also returned. His eyes could clearly see the bottom structure of the transport ship. There was also a blue moon insignia and a description of the unit it belonged to. After the translation, the content was Black Moon Army Transport Team 1293. Black Moon Army? Isn't that? Charlotte suddenly remembered. Isn't that the army led by Isatab? Is she above the blue moon? Has she restored her army? That's impossible. It's impossible for her to rebuild an army in such a short time. Teacher Xiao, what are you looking at? Ramona asked curiously. Charlotte retracted his gaze. Before he could end his X-ray vision, Ramona's clothes in front of him suddenly disappeared. The two dark, jade-like pomelos appeared in his line of sight without any concealment. They were plump and firm, ripe to the extreme and alluring to the extreme. Her legs were slender and firm. There was not a single gap between her closed legs. Her legs could be considered the best of the best. Of course, there was actually a gap, but you too, come and help me. There's a lot of good stuff. I can't carry it all alone. Lini's voice was heard. Charlotte only then came back to his senses. He hurriedly looked away from Ramona and went to get the things. He picked a pair of shoes from the pile of trash. The energy of the combat boots on his feet was almost depleted. He did not have enough energy to replace them, so he had to find a pair of normal shoes. Other than a pair of shoes, he also took some ammunition and gun parts. These gun parts and ammunition were very important to him. Lee and I and Ramona were very greedy. The two women pried open all the boxes one after another and took away the weapons and ammunition that were still in good condition. The things they plundered were packed in a few big bags. The total weight was at least 200 kilograms. Their war horses seemed to have a hard time carrying them. The three of them led their horses in the direction of Peace Village. Lee and I and Ramona whispered to each other. Did you change your mind because you wanted him to stay? Ramona whispered in Lini's ear. Lee and I curled her lips. What are you trying to say? Ramona just smiled and didn't say anything else. Along the way, Charlotte was observing the situation in the forest, but he did not find anything. However, he believed that Black Tiger must have known about what happened in the garbage dump. Black Tiger and his men would definitely be prepared. The way home was not safe. But Charlotte did not care at all. He really liked what Lee and I said after she thought it through. Since someone was going to die, why wasn't it Black Tiger and his people? Chapter 13:26. The forest was quiet. Even the birds had fallen asleep. In the deep blue sky, the blue moon reflected the light of the stars and shone on the forest. This was completely different from the silvery moonlight on Earth. The former was more natural, while the latter was very strange. Black Tiger and the others must be in the village, Ramona said. I can sneak into the village and kill him secretly. That way, we can avoid hurting the innocent. Lee and I said, no, that's too risky. I know Black Tiger's strength very well. Before coming to Peace Village, he was a terrifying killer. You are no match for him. Don't we have him? With him here, what are you worried about? Ramona made a pistol gesture and pointed it at Lini's forehead. Bang! You were shot by him. Lee and I glared at Ramona. Just as the two women were joking around, Charlotte stopped in his tracks. Stop! Lee and I and Ramona immediately became nervous. What did you find? Lee and I asked. Charlotte put a finger to his lips. Shoo! Lee and I immediately shut her mouth. Ramona also raised the assault rifle and got into a fighting stance. However, the forest in front of him was still silent. Not to mention the movement of a human. Not even a bird moved. A minute passed. Could it be that you saw wrongly? Ramona said in a low voice. If it's Black Tiger and the others, they will definitely rush over. They always do that. It's not a person. Charlotte's expression was solemn. Not a person? Ramona was stunned. Not a person. What did you see? Lee and I also became nervous. I don't know. Squat down, squat down. Charlotte also looked nervous. He slowly squatted on the ground and stared ahead vigilantly. Ramona and Lee and I squatted down as well. They also aimed the assault rifles in their hands in that direction. Suddenly, the war horses neighed anxiously. Quiet. Great quiet. Ramona hurriedly called out to her war horse. But before she could do anything, the two war horses turned around and ran. They're coming. Charlotte suddenly roared, "Run!" Before the two women could see what it was, the Avenger 1000 in Charlotte's hands released a gunshot. He fired a shot in the direction in front of him. Bang, bang, bang. Ramona and Lee and I also fired in front of them. Although they didn't see it, their nervousness made them fire. Idiot! Run! Charlotte turned around and pushed Lee and I, then roared, "Get lost!" Lee and I was frightened by Charlotte's ferocious look. Her brain temporarily stopped working, and she stood rooted to the ground. At this moment, a deafening roar suddenly came from the forest in front of them. Roar! Hearing the beast's roar, Ramona's expression suddenly changed, and her voice trembled. It's a blue dragon. Blue dragon? This was the third time Charlotte had heard this phrase. The first time was from Big Bear, the second time was from Huang Zhan, and the third time was from Ramona. However, no matter who said the word blue dragon, anyone who mentioned the blue dragon would have a face full of fear. The previous two times he heard it, he didn't think much of it. He thought it was just a normal beast, like the lions and tigers on Earth. Although they were ferocious, they were far from being a match for a human with a gun. But now he found out that he was wrong. Boom! A tree with a diameter of at least 20 centimeters broke and fell to the ground. A blue monster rushed out from the dark area behind the tree. It looked like the extinct Triceratops on Earth. On the left and right sides of its forehead were two sharp and thick horns. There was also a sharp horn on its nose. The shape of its body was similar to a rhinoceros, but it was twice the size of a rhinoceros. Its body was covered in blue scales, and it weighed at least 4 to 5 tons. The scariest part was its bloody mouth. The triangular teeth gave people the feeling that it could easily bite through a steel plate. How could a human fight against such a huge monster? Run! This time it was Ramona's turn to warn them. She was the first to come back to her senses and turn to run. Against such a huge monster, climbing up a tree would mean death because the blue dragon could easily overturn a tree. Lee and I also turned to run. Fear overwhelmed everything, but she didn't forget about Charlotte. Teacher Xia, run. Charlotte didn't move. He was very clear about the horror of the huge monster in front of him, but he was even more clear that humans couldn't outrun four-legged beasts. The blue dragon in front of him was beyond his understanding of beasts. It was simply a jungle tank. If he ran with them, he might be able to survive for a few more minutes, but in the end he would still be caught by it and become its food. The blue dragon stared at Charlotte. It looked extremely ferocious, but its eyes were small, even smaller than a human's eyes. They were also a little sunken. Its eyeballs were blue, and the divine light they emitted was also blue. It looked especially ferocious. Teacher Xiao, what are you doing? Run quickly. Lee and I realized that Charlotte didn't follow. She stopped and wanted to rush up and pull Charlotte back. But at this moment, Charlotte made an unexpected decision. Bang! The Avenger 1000 in Charlotte's hands made a gunshot, and a bullet flew straight to the blue dragon's right eyeball. Don't anger it, Ramona exclaimed, but her voice couldn't stop the bullet that had already flown out of the muzzle. The bullet instantly reached the blue dragon's right eye socket. The blue dragon suddenly closed its eyes. Ding! A sound like metal colliding was heard. The bullet actually bounced off after hitting the blue dragon's eyelid. The defense of the eyelid was so strong that it could be imagined how strong the defense of the other parts of its body was. This was really not a beast made of flesh and blood, but a beast-shaped armored beast. Roar! The blue dragon opened its eyes and roared at Charlotte. Its upper body leaned forward, and its three sharp horns were aimed at Charlotte. It was ready to rush over at any time. "You two, run quickly. I'll come back for you." Charlotte suddenly rushed toward the blue dragon. The two women who hadn't run far were stunned as they watched Charlotte rush toward the blue dragon. They were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped to the ground. "No," Leonai shouted loudly, and hot tears came out of her eyes. "Don't let his sacrifice be in vain. Let's go." Ramona grabbed Leonie's hand and ran in the direction of the garbage dump. Roar! The blue dragon also rushed toward Charlotte after a brief moment of shock. It was really stunned for a few seconds because this was something it had never encountered before. A weak human actually dared to charge at it head-on. But just as it crashed through the trees like a tank, Charlotte suddenly changed direction and rushed toward the side of the hill. How could the blue dragon let go of this bold prey? It chased after him. Charlotte ran in front, and the blue dragon chased after him. With the help of the combat boots, Charlotte ran like a shooting star, and his speed was actually on par with the blue dragon. As the blue dragon chased after him, almost all the trees in its way were broken by it, and it opened up a path in the forest. 5 minutes, 5 kilometers. This was the distance that the Blue Moon people ran with the help of the combat boots. After 5 kilometers, Charlotte escaped to the top of the hill. When he was going up the hill, the blue dragon's speed was a little slower, and he also put some distance between them. Beep, beep, beep. The Blue Moon people's combat boots suddenly emitted a warning sound, indicating that the energy was about to run out. Damn it, why did it have to be used up at such a critical moment? Before Charlotte could heave a sigh of relief, because of this warning sound, a new problem started to give him a headache. The blue dragon roared at Charlotte, and that sound seemed to be mocking Charlotte. Charlotte's gaze shifted to a huge boulder at the end of the hill that was at least 7 meters tall. His heart suddenly moved, and he rushed toward the boulder. Beep, beep, beep. With every step that Charlotte took, the warning sound from the combat boots became more and more urgent. Rise! When he was close to the boulder, Charlotte's feet suddenly stomped on the ground, and his body soared into the air with the help of the combat boots. Beep, beep, beep. The warning sound from the combat boots stopped, and the energy was exhausted. Charlotte's body lost its support, and he suddenly fell down. The blue dragon rushed toward the boulder, and the 3 sharp horns on its head were aimed in the direction that Charlotte was about to fall. Charlotte reached out and grabbed the edge of the boulder, and then he pulled up, flipped over, and climbed up the boulder. Boom! The blue dragon's head crashed into the boulder. The huge impact acted on the boulder, and cracks appeared on the surface of the boulder. Charlotte was also shocked, and his face turned pale. He was dumbfounded because he saw that the blue dragon's 3 horns had all pierced into the boulder. Roar! The blue dragon roared angrily, shook its head twice, and then pulled out the 3 horns from the boulder. Charlotte stood up, took off the combat boots on his feet, and then smashed one of them down. The combat boots smashed onto the blue dragon's head, but this kind of attack was even lighter than a tickle to it. But to it, this was an insult to it. It took a few steps back, and then hit its head on the boulder. Boom! The boulder loosened, and cracks covered the entire surface of the boulder. The blue dragon pulled out the 3 horns from the boulder, took a few steps back, and then looked up at Charlotte, who was on the boulder. The look of disdain from its small blue eyes seemed to be saying, "One more, and you'll have nowhere to run." Whoosh! As he glared at Xia Lei with disdain in his eyes, a combat boot flew over and smashed right into Blue Dragon's forehead. Charlotte also looked at the blue dragon with disdain, and there was a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth. He seemed to be using his disdainful look to say to the blue dragon, "I am not afraid of you at all." Roar! The blue dragon was completely enraged again. It suddenly moved, and with a thunderous momentum, it hit the boulder. This time, it was like a high-speed tank hitting a boulder. Boom! With a loud sound like a cannonball exploding, the boulder was torn apart and completely shattered. The moment the boulder shattered, Charlotte had already bent his legs and jumped behind the blue dragon. The blue dragon's body passed through the fragments of the boulder, and it rushed over with great force. At that moment, its small blue eyes suddenly widened, and the expression on its face was also extremely strange, Behind the boulder was a cliff that was at least 3 to 500 meters deep. Whoa! The blue dragon couldn't stop its running body, and it fell head first off the cliff. Boom! Boom! Bang! The blue dragon's huge body collided with the cliff, and it fell down, and rocks kept falling along the way. Charlotte stood at the edge of the cliff, and after looking for a while, he said, "If your eyes are so small, you can't run so fast. You will easily fall into a pit like this." Roar! The blue dragon roared angrily. Boom! Boom! Bang! It continued to fall happily. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.